It's Pyram King, and I'm really excited to bring to you another guide to Curse of Strahd. This one is Random Encounters, and this is one I've been working on for a little while in between the other guides, because I wanted to make these encounters not just random, I wanted to make them special. I wanted them more to be tools for you to help weave into your own story. They're just not monsters and just not loot. There's some mystery and there's some characters and there's some lore all woven in here together, and some tools so that you can expand upon it if you like. In addition, we got a special treat for you. 5 map makers from Patreon who I'm a member of. I've reached out to them and I said, look, I'm putting this Random Encounters together. Would you be interested in contributing a map? And they said, sure, we would love to. So each one of these 5 Patreon map creators gave us a map to in WebP format for us to use in the video, as well as the PDF and Foundry modules. And in exchange, I am making the Foundry module and the PDF guide free to the entire community. So we're going to be viewing each of these unique maps that they've made and allowed us to make to share for free in WebP format. These maps do come on their Patreon page in high resolution, grid, non-grid, weather effects, and other assets. But this was a big shout out and thank you to the entire community. Great collaborative effort. So a huge shout out. We're going to be looking and showing you each one of these maps. I'll be telling you about them in detail. Now, a huge shout out to you, the Patreon supporters. It's your support that makes this video guide, these modules and PDF guides available, not just to you in this case, but to everybody in the community. Now, if you're a PDF supporter at the Traveler level, you get all these PDF guides as well as your name in the guides for everyone to see that you are a supporter making this happen. For the Foundry Adventure modules, your names are in the credits of the module itself. And in this one, everybody that downloads it is going to see that you're a contributor making this happen. So a huge thank you to you. Now, if you would like to support me in this epic journey of Curse of Strahd, making these modules and these PDF guides, you can by becoming a Patreon member. There's a link down below in the description, patreon.com/Pyram King. Now, a special shout out to Blair and his Scene Packer module. It's Blair and his Scene Packer module support that allows me to make these Foundry Adventure modules. If you're interested in making your own adventure module for Foundry, check out Blair and his Scene Packer module. There's a link to his Patreon down below in the description. Now, when we visit each one of these maps, I'll be introducing the maps, the map maker, their Patreon page, talking about some of the things I like about the maps. And I thought this was a really fun collaborative exercise because it allows you, the viewer, and you, the people in the role-playing community, to see different map makers, to see the different ways they put maps together and experience different maps. And there might be one that you really love or 2 or 3 that you really love. Go on there and support them on their Patreon page. We're going to be visiting each one of these maps. So excited to share them with you. Now, before we get started, you're looking at a map of Barovia. Now, I thought it was important to include this map of Barovia with this Random Encounters, guys, because we're going to be showing you on this map where these random encounters occur. This is an important module, and this module doesn't have to be used just for Curse of Strahd. You could use it for anything, just change some of the things in it, and this Foundry module and this PDF guide works really good for a variety of random encounters that you're going to have in whatever kind of adventures. Now, the map here that is really important because we spend so much time focusing on the main locations in Curse of Strahd, Barovia, the village of Barovia, Svalich, Kresk, all that. But what about all the places in between? Well, that's what this guide is for, and that's what these battle maps are for, is these locations in between. The campsite, the road, the crossroad, the ruins, the winter road. These are 5 locations that your players will be constantly traveling on as they're going from location to location within Barovia. Now, there are a lot of great fan-made maps out there, and I think it's important, well, I like to do it, to give my players a map to give them context of where they are traveling throughout their epic journey, especially here in Barovia. You're going to hear about these locations, but where are these locations? And so in this particular player map, unfortunately, I don't know who made this. If you do know who made it, please put it down in the description below. I'd like to put credit where credit is due. But there's many of these. I've seen at least 24 of these player-made maps, and they're made to give out. This is a player handout. Now, when you're going to give a player-made handout, whether it's this map or one of the other great fan-based maps, you want to make sure that it's vague and it's detailed. Only a couple of names are on the map because the players, this is part of discovery for the players. In this particular map, we just have the village of Vallaki and the village of Kresk and the village of Barovia. The rest of it's just mountains and some lakes. There's some little pictures of some stuff on there. When you first come here, you don't know what that is. There's a bridge over the river. Looks like there's a castle in the mountains here. I don't know, is that a farm? Who knows? There's a lighthouse. Players have to discover these things, and through the clues, it'll help them decide where to go as they learn clues. It's like, oh, that must be that place in the woods that they were talking about, or up in the mountains. Well, we know where to go now. So in this particular map, what I've done in Foundry is I make this a scene that's shareable. The players can go to us whenever they want to. There's no fog of war on it. I'll show you the configuration here. There's no fog of war token vision. Players can look at this map at any time they want to. I also created a player token on this map. All players have vision. All players are permitted to have vision, but no one can move it. I move it. I just show the players where they are. They go, okay, this is where you are on the map. Players can always load up this map, load up the scene, take a look at it, and have a discussion where they are, or you can print this out. Now, I did an overlay in Foundry of a hex grid. You can determine what the hex distance is for yourself. If you want to make Barovia hexes a mile or a kilometer or half a mile, half kilometer, whatever measurement system works for you. And you can change the scale of the grid, of course. Now, so this is included with the module and the PDF for you guys to use. And also, you should go check out Reddit or come on our Discord servers. There's tons of these maps. Well, not tons, but there's literally almost 24 of these player-made maps. I really like this one. I put some lighting effects on here to give it a little bit of spookiness as well. So the first battle map that we're going to look at is the campsite battle map. And the players are most likely going to camp. They're not going to be staying in the villages all the time. And so we're going to use this battle map, excuse me, when the players are camping. Where in Barovia would they be camping? Pretty much anywhere on this open road or through the forest, as you can see, between Vallaki and Kresk, Kresk and the vineyards, Kresk down to Yesper Hill, going out to the Wizard's Tower between Vallaki and the Bone Grinder here, down over to Tesser Pools. There's a lot of places on the road to camp. So let's take a look at our first map here, battle map here, and we have the camping map, and let's bring up our credits first and talk about who made this map. Now, this particular map is made by Aonbarr. Aonbarr has been making some great battle maps, including battle maps specifically for Curse of Strahd. He was really gracious allowing us to use this campfire map, and I chose this particular map. I'm going to tell you about it for a particular reason. There's a link here to his Patreon page. This is a 40 by 40 WebP version. This map comes in a variety of flavors. The campsite with different assets on it. There's also grid, different conditions, light, night and day and stuff. Definitely go check that out. He's also done some great maps, Ravenloft and some other maps of Barovia as well. Really like his maps, and big thank you out there for creating this map for us. So huge shout out to Aonbarr for that. And guess what? All the Patreon members, you're in here in the credits as well for making this happen. So big thank you to all the Patreon members, and as well as our map maker for our first map, the campsite map. Now, let me talk about this map a little bit before we show you the encounters. One of the things I look at maps, and one of the things I like about his maps is his attention to terrain. One of the things we often forget about, we get really caught up in the beauty of the map, and this is a gorgeous map, is we forget about the importance of terrain features. And terrain features allows our encounters to be unique. It brings some uniqueness to those encounters. And this particular camp map works really well for so many locations. We've got some cliffs on both sides of the roads. I put the words in here, 10-foot drop, 20-foot drop, and on both sides of roads. We've got a nice open space for encounters. We've got woods, and we've got roads. So there's so many things. It might seem simple to you, but having those cliffs make a difference. And I'll show you what I mean here, especially if you're using Foundry, for instance. Let's just say I'm just going to bring out a I don't know, a wolf here. What I've done with Foundry is I made the cliff actually work. So if you're up here, you can see down the cliff. But if you're on below the cliff, you can't see up. Every time you go down another layer, you can only see up so much. So Foundry allows you to hide, elevation in here, and that's exactly what I did. So you can see down the cliff, you just can't see up the cliff. That makes for some really unique combat encounters. His map also, if you go to his Patreon site, he has different versions of the campsite with some different bed rolls and stuff like that there. I just used the very clean basic one that we have here and giving you the DM a little bit more latitude on how you want to do that. He also has some nice assets there too, so definitely go to check out his Patreon. Now let's check out our random encounters here. Now each map has 10 random encounters. Some of them are shared across the different maps and some of them are unique. So we're at the campsite map and we're going to talk about the first one, random encounter, which is a barrel encounter. Now before we get started, I got to mention I'm using 2 modules to make this work that you're going to need. I'm running obviously Foundry version 9 at this point, and the 2 modules to make this work are the quick encounters modules and Monk's active tile triggers. Those 2 are required to make this work. Okay, the first one we have here is the barrel, and we're going to run this quick encounter, and I'll show you this here. And the barrel is right here. So the players see a barrel over here and they can go investigate the barrel. What the barrel is the Curse of Strahd trinket table. Now, if you own Curse of Strahd on D&D Beyond, and you had the book, there's a trinket table there located. I believe it's in the appendix section, if I'm not mistaken. I have a link here to D&D Beyond so you can do it. And I've turned it into a roll table. If you have the book and if you're playing with the PDF, you can just look in the book in there. So what we're going to do on here is we're going to roll on here when you look in the barrel, and inside the barrel you're going to have a leather gloves with some weird ivory fingernails on it. So you're just going to have a weird item in here. Now what's nice about the Curse of Strahd trinket table is it gives you a random item. It's kind of interesting, eerie, creepy. The players can talk about it. It lends to the atmosphere. Here's another one. A small lockbox hums a melody. You always forget it in the morning. I mean, it's just creepy. It's out of sorts. It gives the players something to think about. It's fun to allow the players to create their own story, or maybe the DM creates a story about where this came from. Who did this belong to before? Why do those gloves have some creepy nails on it? And what is that song that's playing in the melody? Really lean into the role playing, lean into the moment. Just don't read the text. Make it into its own little story, or let the players imagine what that might be. So there's the barrel, and we have these. This is a quick tile, so there's 2 ways you can do this. You can do this as a quick tile by just double clicking on it. I'll show you how that works. So as a game master, you can double click on it, and it will roll for you as well if you roll, and that's using the Monk's tile triggers there. A broken pendant of a silver dragon, it always seems to be cold to the touch. Where did the pendant come from? Who is it? If you want to weave that pendant into your story or narrative, you can. All right, what's next on here? This is one of my favorite ones here is the corpse. So let's do the corpse here. We're going to go ahead and run the quick encounter here. And here's the corpse over next to the campfire. You can see it right here. Kind of spooky, kind of disgusting. Now, what I wanted to do with this corpse, and so many times when you come across in Dungeons & Dragons a corpse or something, there's just a random item in there, and it might be helpful, it might not be helpful, but in many cases it doesn't have any real meaning or any purpose other than it's a random item and you hope, luck of the draw, you get something good. What I wanted to do is tailor a little mystery around the corpse, allow the player to discover through the items on this corpse what this corpse might have been or who it might have been when they're living. It also allows you as the DM to figure out how you want to weave this into your story. Now, each of the 5 battle maps runs the same corpse tile, but there are 10 different corpses based on the items that are found including 2 monsters that may appear. Now, once the players discover, by finding all the items in the corpse and kind of learning who this corpse might be, the players can run a medicine or investigation or nature check to determine how the person died. Was it through the elements? Maybe it was cold, or one night maybe they were poisoned, maybe they were attacked by wild animals, maybe a monster, maybe some kind of beast. So putting together how they died and who they were is part of this mystery, and allows you as the DM to weave this further into the story. Now, I'm so excited about this that I'm going to roll through this and show you how this works. So the player shows the corpse, you run your encounter, and you have this table here. Again, you can click on the corpse or you can click on the table. We're just going to click on the table and show you how this works. So each corpse has a bunch of items on them, and we're going to roll here. I'm going to turn it off. There's 2 monsters. There's a possibility that they roll a ghost, in which case if a ghost comes, you start a combat encounter, or a wight comes and you start a combat encounter. So a ghost or a wight comes out of the corpse and you begin a combat encounter, and you can run that how you want to. Maybe the ghost has surprise on the player that's investigating it or not. But what we're interested in is, what did we find on the corpse? So let's go ahead. I'm going to roll for all 10 so you can see them. So we find this corpse, and the players find a potion of healing, a prayer book, a block of incense, a candle, robes, and holy flask, and prayer beads, and a bunch of items on there. Clearly, this was a priest or perhaps one of the fathers of the Morning Lord. So the players can start going, hey, this was obviously, there's no weapons on. There's a prayer book, holy potion, potion of healing, some holy water. Perhaps, and this is up to you, DM, perhaps this was a priest who was friends with Father Donovich. Maybe his name is scrolled in that prayer book. If you bring his remains back, maybe they could have a proper burial at the Church of the Morning Lord in Svalich, and perhaps Father Petrovich would be happy and maybe share some lore or history, or maybe give something valuable to the players. So you can weave this into the story. Let's do another one here. We have, this is one of my favorite. You find on the corpse a spyglass, a bedroll, climber's kit, miner's pick, navigation tools, a potion of climbing, a potion of cold resistance, some traveler clothes, a piton, cartography tools, rope, scroll, and some other stuff. There's no weapons. This must be an explorer, some kind of adventurer, probably going to somewhere cold. Maybe you discover something on it. Maybe you could add something on the body. Maybe they were going up to the Salinka Pass, preparing to go up to the pass, but they didn't make it. Maybe they investigate the body and he was attacked and robbed by bandits. That's why there's no gold or weapons, or maybe some monster killed them. So weave in your own story, but clearly this is an explorer or adventurer of some sort. Next up, we have a heavy crossbow, hide armor, that's a clue, hooded lantern, a mess kit, crossbow equipment, hunting trap, small knife, a sack, a bedroll, block and tackle, and water skin. Clearly a hunter of some sort. He's got a hunting trap, crossbow, hide armor made of leather of some sort. This could be a missing wolf hunter. Maybe this is Hagar, the wolf hunter, and he went out alone, really old, and you take the stuff back, and the wolf hunters and Blocky say, oh yeah, Hagar was always out hunting by himself. Looks like the wolves got the better of him, or players do a medicine or investigation check, nature check, and find out the wolves have killed poor Hagar. I mean, you can make up your own story with it. I'm just giving you some ideas. But what's interesting is you're putting items together that fit a narrative, a wolf hunter, a priest, an explorer. There's a couple more. I want to do them all. I had fun putting this together. I want to share with you. It's timestamped down below, so if you want to skip it, you can skip ahead. Next up, we have a disguise kit, tinderbox, thieves' tools, torch, traveler's clothes, antitoxin, basic poison, grappling hook, oil, slipperiness, and poisoner's kit. Well, you could easily just say, well, that's just a rogue, but what kind of rogue? Why did he have poison and antitoxin? Was he trying to kill somebody? Why did he have a disguise kit? I mean, weave some kind of story. Let the players' imagination, let them talk among themselves. Well, the fun part about this is let the players find it. Let the players discuss among themselves. You just say, I don't know. Who do you think it is? Let the players tell you who they think it is, and let the players feed your narrative. Maybe the players say, Well, he was probably trying to poison somebody, disguising as somebody and trying to kill somebody. Let the player's imagination fill you with ideas as the DM saying, oh, that's interesting. So then you can weave that in. Maybe they get to Vallaki and somebody was trying to kill the Burgermeister. There was rumors he was poisoned and stuff. Maybe you found the body. Maybe Isaac found him and took him out in the woods and killed him. Who knows? What I'm saying is you got these interesting items here that kind of fit together that allow the players to create some fun, creative imagination, and you can weave in a narrative that fits into your Curse of Strahd campaign. Okay, let's do another one here. Oh, this is a good one too. Brewer supplies, common clothes, a tankard, a barrel, a dagger, a dice set, a forgery kit, lock, a merchant scale, signal whistle, sovereign glue. Clearly a merchant trader of some sort, but why does he have a forgery kit and brewer supplies and a barrel? Well, you know that wine shipments have slowed down a lot, and wine is worth a lot. I mean, everybody in Barovia likes to drink the Barovian wine from a Wizard of Wines. Maybe he was trying to make his own version of wine, and he has a forgery kit because maybe he's trying to forge some documents to make it look like it was actually purple grape mash from Wizard of Wine. I don't know. You let the players make up a story. I threw that forgery kit in there with the brewer supplies so that the players' imagination can run wild. Let them figure this out. Have some fun with it. Okay, what else do we got here? I love the corpse. This is so cool. Ooh, chainmail, a mace, a ring of protection, an emblem, a prayer book, and a shield. Clearly, this is a cleric, a paladin, somebody of a holy militaristic order. I would describe the emblem to the players. Maybe you could describe it as an emblem that looks like a dragon, and it could be the symbol of the Order of the Silver Dragon from Argynvost. Maybe this body leads them back to Argynvost. If they brought the body with the emblem and all this stuff back to the Revenants, maybe it's a way to bond with the Revenants or whatever. So again, let the players weave this in together. You know the campaign. You can figure out where to plug and play this into your story. Okay, we got another one here. Let's see what we get. So exciting. An hourglass, ink with the ink bottle, medallion of thoughts, paper, a wooden staff, a robe of usefulness, and a ring of fire resistance. Clearly a wizard. He probably had the paper and the pen of ink because he was writing down some spells. Fire resistance. Maybe when they do the medicine check on the body's charred. Maybe he was trying to learn or cast some fire spell and he just burned himself up, and the ring of fire resistance is no good. You know, and the players don't know that. I mean, you can create whatever you want to in here, and these are just little items. Let the players think about it. Maybe when they're examining the paper, there's half-written spells or something on there. They're not complete. Maybe there's some tie-in to the Wizard's Tower or to the Amber Temple here with this body. Again, it's up to you. Let's do another one here. What do we got? Ooh, this is a fun one. A dagger, a signet ring, fine clothes, perfume, filter of love, flask, playing card set, a pouch, sealing wax, soap, and a steely mirror. Clearly, this is a nobleman or maybe kind of a Casanova type dude. He's got the perfume and, you know, maybe some cologne. He's got the filter of love. Maybe he's trying to woo somebody and win somebody over. Who was it? How did he die? You know, maybe there's some inscription on the flask. Why does he have this filter of love potion? What's on the signet ring? I mean, this could be a number of things. It could be some guy that was trying to maybe woo Lady Walker and she had him killed because maybe he was a spy. Or I got an idea just now. You know, Vasily von Holtz is, right, Strahd in disguise, right? Perhaps Vasily von Holtz was a real person. And this, Strahd killed Vasily von Holtz and took him on. Vasily von Holtz was a real person, and Strahd took his identity, killed him, and this is the body of the real Vasily von Holtz. You know, he's kind of a nobleman, well-to-do. Everybody likes Vasily in the town. He's like a minor noble. This could be the body of the real Vasily von Holtz. I mean, I just thought of that just now. Or it could be a scorned lover, or somebody that's trying to maybe pull one on over on Lady Valkyr, or maybe somebody's trying to woo the Baron's wife and trying to move into power or something. So many things you can do with this. This is a fun one. In the signet ring, you could come up with some kind of secret symbol or something on the signet ring. Maybe the signet ring is a member of Lady Walker's cult or something. Who knows? My mind just goes wild with these things, as you can tell. All right, next up. Ooh, common clothes, fishing tackle, mess kit, club, hooded lamp, net, sack, and a bucket. Clearly a fisherman. You can tie this really well into Bluto. Maybe they discover this. It's Bluto's friend. It could have been killed and eaten by the Gitrog. There's so many things you can tie into the Gitrog, like Zarovich, the Bluto encounter on Lake Zarovich. You could tie this into the swamps. Maybe somebody went fishing in the swamps and didn't come back. This was a fisherman that went fishing down the Luna River somewhere, or the Raven River, and something killed it. Maybe fishing on the Raven River down near Krusk, and Werewolf got to him. Who knows? All right, what else do we got here? Excuse me, my cough. Apologize. Padded armor +1, vicious dagger, whetstone, blanket, short sword, cloak of elvenkind, quiver, vicious bow and arrow. Clearly a ranger of some sort, probably an elven ranger. As you know, we have dusk elves in Curse of Strahd. Only a few left. Strahd's been wiping them out. This could be one of the dusk elf scouts who was spying on something. Strahd caught them and killed them, or one of Strahd's minions. Maybe bringing this stuff back to the dusk elves who live with the Vistani just outside Vallaki will win you favor with them. So, there's some cool items in there, but yeah, maybe. Now, I put some magic items in there. You don't have to. You can swap them out if you want to. I like to give the players a magic item every now and then. And magic items are good for trade, too. So they get these things. If they bring these back and they keep the magic items, the Dusk Elves could say, he had his father's armor, dagger, and bow, and the cloak that we gave them. Did you not find them? Then the players are going to have to either lie. Well, we didn't find them. We just found the body and a whetstone and a blanket. We're going to like, well, what about the vicious dagger and the elven? I don't know what you're talking about. There's a deception check at that point. So, if they give them to them, maybe they reward them by giving him one of the items and then returning the rest to his family. I don't know. I'm telling you, those are all the things you can do with it. I think we have one more, or that's it. I think that's all. That's all of them. So there are 10 bodies, 10 things to find on these bodies. I'll just show you really quickly here. I'll bring that up to corpse. This is on each map. And so again, there's the hunter, the merchant, the thief, cleric, ranger, priest, noble, fisherman, magic user, mage, wizard, whatever, and the explorer. Also, there's the ghost and the wight. There's some instructions in here. And again, I would have the players also roll to find out how they died. And then you can weave this into like a little mini, they're on their way to Vallaki. Maybe they found the priest. They bring it to Father Petrovich. You have a burial. These are great ways to introduce NPCs. It really helps bring the players, emerge them further into the story. It's just not a random encounter. It's a random encounter that fits into the story and the narrative. It really brings them into the campaign and into the story. The next one up we have is the Raven. And this was important to run in here because the Raven, is a common theme. The Raven lands up here in the tree. It's a common theme in Curse of Strahd. And there's the Keepers of the Feathers. So this could be a normal Raven, or it could be a Were-Raven. It's up to you, however you want to role play this. But it is keeping a track of the players. And one of the things, and when we talk about encounters at night, and I'll tell you about my philosophy on how to run these, is that you're going to have a player that's on watch, right? The rest of the players are sleeping. Player's on watch. He spots the Raven. Now, you can have the Raven squawk. You hear the Raven squawk, and then squawks twice, and then squawks once. You have the player, maybe they have animal handling. Is this Raven trying to speak to me? If the player is able to determine that the Raven's trying to speak with them, the Raven can answer binary questions. Yes, one squawk. yes, 2 squawks, 1 squawk for no. Maybe the raven's willing to answer a question, a binary question. Maybe not, maybe 2 questions. It's up to you to role play it. If the players are unfriendly or attacked, the raven will just fly off. But I thought it was important to include the raven here at the camp because I want to have that raven theme throughout. Remember, the Keeper of the Feathers, the Wizards of Wine, the Were-Ravens are an important element, especially Mariel Vinshaw, and ties into the entire Fae quest as well. Next up is one of my favorites. Can't wait to show you this one. This is awesome. Really love this one. This is a ghost. Okay, let me get rid of this tile here. Because this ghost is pretty cool looking. Check out this ghost. Oh my gosh, he is so cool looking. So this ghost materializes in front of the players. Now, I'm going to stop here because I want to talk about initiative for a second, especially with random encounters, especially for Dungeons and Dragons. It is important, and this is, of course, my opinion, it is important that you tell your players at the start of your campaign, during session 0, that when you ask the players to roll initiative, it does not necessarily mean that there will be combat. And you have to emphasize it. When I ask you to roll initiative, it doesn't mean that there's going to be combat. It means that I need to get a turn order because your players are going to make distinct actions or movements that could have consequences or repercussions. Maybe it's a social encounter. Maybe it's exploring something. Maybe it's running into something. And you want to give each player a turn to interact, make an action, make a move. Maybe you're trying to look for traps, or you're discovering a room. Because you run into something doesn't mean you should always fight. And that's something that I think is important that you should remind the players of. So I would, just like with the Raven, with the Ghost here, I would have them roll initiative. Now, this is the way this works. The Ghost appears, and the Ghost looks at the adventurers. The Ghost looks like he's an adventurer or something. He's from centuries ago. He seems more curious to who the party is than a threat, right? He doesn't seem to be a threat. I mean, a ghost just seems to be a threat, but it's not the kind of threat that like it's going to attack. When you roll initiative, the ghost will not attack. If the players attack the ghost, it will simply disappear. However, if the players engage with the ghost will respond, and I'll try some crappy voice acting here. Excuse me. What are foolish adventurers doing here in Barovia? You are lost, now forgotten, as all of those in Barovia are. Now, if the players seem friendly, and this is what's really cool, the ghost will tell them a story and then disappear. Now, if the ghost tells them a story and disappears, every time the players camp, this ghost will come and share another story with the players. Now, who is this ghost? That's really up to you. And I got some ideas here. If you remember reading the story about the Abbey, there's 2 interesting unknown characters in there. There's the hunter who raised the young girl, found the young girl and raised her, who later became Sister Markovia. He raised her till she was about 12 and then took her to the Abbey where the sisters raised her and she became St. Markovia. This could be the ghost of that hunter. You also remember that there was a lord, there was a manor before it was an abbey, and the lord, from whatever, 700 years ago, he didn't have any heirs, gave it to his maid who was loyal to him, the manor, and the maid who was very religious in the Morning Lord turned it into an abbey. Maybe this is the lord of that. This could be another adventurer, like the party members who came here and maybe centuries ago, or maybe just last month. Weave in your own story on who the ghost is. So what's cool is the ghost is going to tell them a random story, and then the ghost will fade away. That's it. The ghost won't really answer any questions, maybe a little bit, but not really. He just tells a story and disappears. What's really cool is the next time the players are camping, the ghost will materialize again and tell them another story. So let's look at the 8 ghost stories that the ghost will tell. I really like this. And I'm going to read them to you because I like it so much and I wrote it. So if you want to skip ahead, it's timestamped down below. So here are the 8 ghost stories.
Salinka Pass, high in the snow-covered mountains to the south of Barovia, is the only way to the temple. The temple contains dark and powerful magic. Those who have traveled there have never returned, many never making it across the pass high in the snow-covered mountains. Freezing temperature, avalanches, blizzards, and snow beasts of all kinds lurk in the mountains. Only the bravest adventurers or fools would even attempt such a journey.
So clearly the ghost is telling you that there's a temple, Salinka Pass is dangerous, it's freezing, there's avalanche blizzards, and there's snow beasts. There's some powerful dark magic up at some temple up in the mountains, Salinka Pass. So there's a name. So these are good notes. They're ghost stories, but they're good notes to take. Here goes the next one.
One may come across a skeleton of a knight riding a horse. His spirit has fallen into despair. For he was sent centuries ago at the start of the Great War against darkness to warn the villages and seek out men-at-arms to muster at Argynvost to prepare for battle. He rides across Barovia, reliving that faithful ride for eternity. For his soul and spirit, like all of us, are trapped in Barovia by the dark mists.
So here you're learning about Argynvost. You're going to learn about the Skeletal Rider. He's an encounter. And you're also learning about being trapped by the dark mist. So I imagine the Skeletal Rider was a young knight of the Order of the Silver Dragon 400 years ago. They're about to go to war against Strahd and his forces. He sends the young knight out, sort of like Paul Revere, to warn the villages war is coming and to find any young men, muster the men at arms, bring them to Argynvost Holt to muster the men. The task was so monumental for this young knight, realizing that he is going to be the word to these people, let them know that war is coming and to find young men to fight. And that when he's died, this event, this memory was so entrenched in him that he is reliving, this ghost is reliving this night over and over for centuries, riding through Barovia on his horse. Now he's a skeletal rider to the villages and calling men to arms. So this has been going on for centuries. All right, let's do the next one.
The Fae are partly to blame, for they gave Strahd a powerful gift. This gift was created with Fae magic and now resides in Castle Ravenloft. The Fae did not know what Strahd had become, or if they had. Their fault is believing that all men have the possibility of redemption. The Fae have long since gone, except for the Swamp Fae, who, like many in Barovia, is twisted and cursed.
So this ghost, for whatever reason, blames the Fae, partly blames the Fae, because the Fae, remember, if you read Fanes of Barovia, gave Strahd a powerful gift, the Heart of Sorrow. And Strahd has used the Heart of Sorrow as a phylactery. It's what, if he gets struck down, it's what brings him back. It also has, from a mechanical axe point, it is his first hit points. The Heart of Sorrow soaks up his first hit points before he starts taking damage, and it is his phylactery. And he, partly faults the Fae for whatever reason.
Some say there are Worg living in the mountains to the north. They were here long before man. At one time, the Worg were believed to be allies with the Werewolves. They are no friends of darkness or Strahd. Be warned, though, the Worg live by their own code, not of man, and not of darkness.
So you maybe already know about the Worgs. I introduced them in the Abbey. I also introduced them in the Werewolf Den. The Worgs and Werewolves were allied. The Dwarves had made a pact when man first came to, villagers first came to Barovia with the Fae, not to attack man. And so the Worg, for centuries, have been living in the mountains away from man, and they want nothing to do with Strahd or men or anything. They just want to be left alone in the mountains. So he's telling you about the Worg, leading into the Worg story and battle map. Diamandi, as you probably already know, just released the Worg battle map cave, and I'm finishing up that adventure module for that. All right, what do we got next? Oh, Strahd destroyed and cursed the small village of Berez. There is nothing left but ruins. It is believed Strahd cursed the peoples of Berez into horrid little creatures, part animal, part monster, part human. They have long since disappeared, but I believe they still lurk, hiding in Barovia. These are the mongrel folk in Abbey. The mongrel folk are the distant, mutated ancestors of the cursed people of Berez. Strahd cursed Berez, used it as a message throughout Barovia. This will happen to you if you don't, pay homage to the Dark Lord. He has a lot of hatred for Berez. Creatures roam the swamp, the kind I have never seen. A strange dark power has taken over the swamp, twisting and mutating all manner of creatures. It is easy to get lost in the swamp. Those who get lost are never found. So this giving you a heads up, if you've seen the Berez Hex Crawl, it is possible to get lost in the swamp, and there are some strange, unusual creatures there, which has been twisted partly from Strahd's curse and partly from when the Water Fae became the Swamp Fae and started practicing on some of the creatures living in the swamp. Even the power of the Morning Lord was not strong enough to defeat the Dark Lord. A powerful saint from the Abbey, said to have power to destroy the undead, was struck down at Ravenloft. Yet there may be answers to defeating Strahd at the Abbey. So he's referring to Saint Markovia. Saint Markovia rose up. As you read the lore, you'll learn that Saint Markovia fought against Strahd. She had powers fighting the undead. She went to Ravenloft. Strahd defeated her. She is now in the crypt. The bones of St. Markovia, the thigh bone of St. Markovia, is an actual weapon against vampires. So he's referring to St. Markovia. So he's hinting there might still be clues at the Abbey. Go to the Abbey. There might be something, clue there to destroy Strahd. And last of the ghost stories is, Strahd was once a man. Centuries ago, he made a pact with an unfathomable darkness to become the Dark Lord himself. He's more than a mere vampire. He possesses powers one can only imagine. What did a man have to promise to darkness to gain such insane power? I can only imagine something so ungodly it has twisted the soul beyond redemption. To live with a horrific axe in knowledge for eternity must be torture that no man can bear. So he's hinting, obviously, he knows, maybe not knows the specific acts, but in order to get that kind of level of power that Strahd had, and he made some kind of deal with the devil or the dark forces, he had to do something pretty horrific to get those powers. And you and I know as the DM, he killed his brother. He murdered his brother in order, it doesn't really get much worse than that. Not to mention Tatiana leapt to her death. So Strahd, and this kind of weaves into that kind of Shakespearean tragedy that we know. Strahd it's a romantic tragedy. He's in love with Tatiana. He's murdered his brother. This reads kind of like a cross between Richard III. If you took Richard III, Macbeth, and Hamlet and mixed it together, you kind of have a Strahd story. It's pretty horrific and pretty, sadly, grotesquely pathetic, all mixed together in this kind of gothic horror story. So he's kind of alluding to that there. So these are cool ghost stories. He's only going to tell one of them, and he disappears. The next time they camp, he reappears, tells them a ghost story, and disappears again. Perhaps if they're able to save Barovia, the ghost and the soul is free, and maybe you reveal to the party, a big reveal is who this ghost actually is. That'd be a fun reveal. Just another crazy idea to share with you. Let's see what else we have here on the map. We have the grave here, and the grave is another tile. I'll show you how that works. So the grave, you're going to run the quick encounter. You click on that, and where is the grave? It's around here. There it is. So the grave is a quick encounter, and the grave works more like the random encounters you're probably used to. There's a roll table here with random items. The players will dig down in the grave, and they'll find an item. There is a chance, a 1 in 12 chance, that a ghost will appear. If the ghost does appear, I would have all the players roll a Constitution save. The lowest result is attacked by the ghost before combat starts. So I'd say everybody roll a Constitution save. Lowest score loses. Ghost attacks them first. Then you begin combat as normal. There are some items in here. Most of these are regular items, D&D 5 items. But there are several items in here that are special items. I'll show them to you. One is as you know, I like books. I write books. I like books. So I decided to include just a poem here by Keats. It's a poem I thought fits in with Barovia fairly well. I won't read you the poem, but it's an item that players can find and read. It has, it's just a nice poem. I just wanted to share it. So it's in there. They can find that, and it's buried in one of the grave sites. Another item in here is the pouch of finger bones, which I created. I thought this would be kind of cool. They find it in a grave. It's a pouch. It has an Arcana check of DC 10 to realize what the bones are. And you have resistance to damage of skeletons while attuned to the pouch of finger bones. So as long as you attune to this, you won't know what it is unless you do an Arcana check. As long as you're attuned to the pouch of finger bones, any damage from just skeletons, not undead, not vampires, skeletons, it's a pouch of finger bones, you are going to be resistant to that damage. Doesn't matter what the damage is. If it comes from skeletons, you're resistant to that damage. I thought it'd be kind of a fun item for skeletons, and there are some skeleton encounters throughout Barovia. The other one I have here is the pouch, and I wanted to, again, tap into the Curse of Strahd trinket table. If you find a pouch in the grave, you can go ahead and roll from the trinket table for a random item. A spinning top card with 4 faces: happy, sad, wrathful, and dead. So you can, and then you can just copy this text here and put it in this text here, and the player can keep this as a trinket item. There's amulet, there's a signet ring, dagger +1, shield, chainmail, and a sword. Are all things that you can find in the grave. Okay, what's next? We're still just on the camp story. Oh, the hooded figures. Okay, let me get rid of these other guys. The hooded figures. Okay, there are 3 hooded figures. These are spies for Strahd. Now you'll notice that 2 of the hooded figures are hidden. And what this is going to be, and I want to talk about combat encounters for camping. When you're camping, the players are sleeping and one player's awake on watch. And I'll tell you how I do this. The player on watch has the ability to do some perception checks. The players asleep don't. They're asleep. Now, the player here on watch may find or see this hooded figure, and you're going to roll initiative. The players that are asleep are going to roll initiative as well. However, what you can do, this is just a suggestion, players are asleep. They're laying down. They might have part of their armor off. They need to grab their sword. They're not going to be in the fight right yet. So what you can do is you can do a dexterity check, and you can have 2 levels of dexterity. If it's dexterity, you can make it pretty easy. Dexterity DC 10. If they fail the dexterity check DC 10, if it's under 10, they wake up at the end of the round, but they cannot do anything until the end of the second round. If they roll over DC 10, they get up. They're not going to do anything this round, but at the end of this round, the beginning of round 2, they're going to attack. So this determines if they get into round 2 or round 3 as the dexterity check if they're sleeping. This is to add a little bit of verisimilitude to it. There's no point, and think about this for a second, there's no point for one of your guys standing watch and the other player's getting rest if the players can just wake up automatically and start attacking, right? There's got to be a moment of time where the guy on watch is defending everybody as they are waking up. So if the guy or gal on watch, they're going to be in the first round of combat by themselves. The second round of combat, some of the players may be up or they may not. They might be scrambling, right? So one option is to use that dexterity check. DC 10 or lower, they start at the beginning of round 3. DC 10 or higher, or 10 higher than DC, higher than 10, they begin at the beginning of round 2. But the first round is just the person on watch. Second thing, you got to think about these combat encounters based on how many people are in your party and the level of your party, and also the experience. In this particular case, we have the hooded figure. They're going to see one. They're not going to see the other ones who are hiding. This hooded figure has got 16 hit points, right? He's a spy for Strahd. When he sees the player, and you don't want to have combat counter, the hooded figure is going to try to run away, and the player is going to try to capture him. Obviously, at that point, you can decide to bring in these other hooded figures to help free their buddy and expose them, or begin the combat encounter. One of the things that you have to do is run the combat encounters as you would based on the characters NPCs you're playing. These are spies for Strahd. They're not fighters. They've been watching the players. If the hooded figure escapes, anything that went on that day among the party, he's going to inform Strahd. They've been following you all day, and now they're going to go tell Strahd. They're going to leave at night. If you attack them and kill them, obviously they can't tell. If you attack them, in order for them to you have to intimidate them. You're not going to persuade them. You're going to have to intimidate them to tell you that they work for Strahd. Allow the players from there on to do what they want. So that's a little bit on combat encounters for camping and the hooded figures here. So these are spies for Strahd. They have a short bow, short sword, and a light crossbow, and they do multi-attack. They look pretty, they're hooded figures, and you know how those hooded figures are. Let's take a look at one of those hooded figures. There he is. He's a spy for Strahd. I imagine they're kind of like nefarious, back alley people hanging out, and, they probably work for Ernst or whoever paid them. They're kind of scumbag villains, right? Spies. They're not very good at spying. Obviously, they got caught. All right. We have the Kenku. Okay, run the quick encounter. Now, the Kenku, as you know, the Kenku are were-ravens. They are the cursed were-ravens. When the were-ravens took the gem to hide the gem, Strahd cursed the were-ravens that he caught and turned them into Kenku. Kind of between their hybrid form, half human, half bird, like a walking crow. So they can no longer hide. He cursed them. You will always be what you truly are, a walking raven, and curse them. So now everybody can see. And part of the curse means they can't speak. They can only do mimicry and pantomime, so they cannot speak. It's possible that the Kenku, through their pantomime and mimicry, share something about the abbey, the location of the stone circles, the wizards' wines, whatever fitting into your story at that moment. Anything that's doing with the Keeper of the Feathers, the winery, the stone circles, the Fae, or the abbey, they have some information they can share. If they're attacked, they will defend themselves and they'll flee. They will not attack the player. So this is going to be more of a role-playing encounter unless your players kill them. I mean, I don't know. It might have some murder hobos. Who knows? All right. We have the Skeletal Rider. Let's do that. We got here. Skeletal Rider is really cool. The Skeletal Rider, which you already learned from the ghost story, is this rider on a horse. He's a revenant. Now, what happens is your players are going to see this Skeletal Rider come up, and he's got this lance. And on the end of this lance, he's got this banner. It's in tatters. And he stops. And he takes his lance and he aims it, points it towards Argynvost's Holt, and he nods his head. He raises the lance, and he rides off. Now, you can't say he pointed it to Argynvost's Holt. You might, on the player map, you might say, if you're here, he pointed it in a northwest direction. You might say it in looking at your hexagon map, he pointed it in this direction. That's probably what I would do, is like he's pointing it in this direction here. which is towards Argynvostholt. All right. Wherever you are and you run into him, if he's up here, you're going to say he pointed in this direction. Eventually, the players keep track of which way he's pointing. He's always pointing to Argynvostholt. Really, what he's doing is what he did in life. Go to the village, find people, including people, adventurers walking on the road. War is about to happen. Go to Argynvostholt. He can't speak anymore. He's a skeletal rider. He points his lance with a banner on it. The banner should be enough for you to recognize. Go to Argynvostholt. And he nods his head. I imagine the skeletal rider is thinking that he's speaking. War is at hand. We need good men at arms. Go, ride to Argynvostholt. There you'll be armed. Battle is coming. I must go warn the others. And he rides off. He's imagining probably that's what he's saying. Now the players look at the tethered banner. You can describe it. You know, it's in tatters. It's torn. Its colors faded, but there's like a silver dragon on it. It's the emblem of the Order of the Silver Dragon, and that's who he is. Now, one of the things that's really cool about him, I mean, if you try to get in combat encounter with the Skeletal Rider, he's having none of it. Remember, this is his myopic purpose, to find people to fight against the darkness, the Dark Lord, and to warn the villages. So if you try to fight him, he's going to defend himself, but his goal is to ride off. He's going to ride off. He's probably going to think you're bandits or something like that in his crazy mind. He doesn't speak. However, the Skeletal Rider will drop something when he leaves, and that is the Skeletal Rider trinket table. There's 6 Skeletal Rider trinkets. Let's review them each because they're so cool. Each time you see the Skeletal Rider, he'll drop one of these trinkets. It's something that belongs to the Skeletal Rider that he accidentally drops. The bone dice. This is a really cool item. If you get the bone dice, you get to roll a d20 once a day. Keep that number. So let's say you rolled an 18. You can use that 18 to replace any one of your d20 rolls for the rest of the day. When the sunset happens, and the bone dice magic disappears. So it's cool. You can roll. You get a free d20 roll, and you get to keep it. And then anytime during the day, you get to replace one of your rolls with that. So maybe you rolled you missed a DC check. You rolled like an 8. You know, and you're like, I needed something a little higher, and you have a 16. You can say, I'm going to use my bone dice and use the 16 for my bone dice and turn that into a success. And even if you roll a critical, I mean, it's up to your DM. If you roll a critical, maybe you can just throw it down. It's like, dude, it's a critical hit, and use my bone dice. So really, really cool item. I love the bone dice. Next up is the Candle of the Morning Lord. The candle it allows the holder of the candle. You have to light it. It takes an action. You have to light it, hold the candle once per day. Once the candle's lit, is to use the turn on dead. So you can turn on dead, lighting the candle. You have to hold it. It takes an action. It means you have to have a free hand, light the candle, but you can turn on dead with it. It's pretty cool. The Dagger of the Night Stalker. This is a normal dagger, except for it does additional 1d4 radiant damage to vampires. Only to vampires. 1d4 radiant damage. The Dagger of the Night Stalker. There it is right there. Dagger of the Night Stalker. Next up we have is the King's Locket. The King's Locket's really cool because when you open up the locket, the face in the locket changes. Sometimes it's an old lady, sometimes it's a little girl, sometimes it's an old man, sometimes it's a baby. You can, who attune to the locket, can disguise self as the image in that locket once per day. So if it's an old man, you take on the image of the old man in the locket. So it's a magic locket in which you can take on disguise self of whatever's in there. Now, obviously, it's a baby. You're going to have a baby face. I'm just saying, you can disguise yourself as a baby. Not that you necessarily want to, but who knows? All right. There is the Necklace of Chains. The Necklace of Chains cannot be worn by a paladin or cleric. Cannot be. Can only be worn by a non-cleric or non-paladin. The Necklace of Chains requires attunement, and the wearer of the necklace can cast one cleric cantrip per day. one. Doesn't matter. You can be a fighter. You can be a blood hunter. You be able to cast one cleric cantrip per day. Each link of the chain is a magical cantrip, and you're allowed to cast one cleric cantrip per day. And last but not least is the Signet Ring of the Sun. The Signet Ring of the Sun allows you to cast the light spell, the wearer, the light spell, once per day. So the Signet Ring of the Sun, the light spell once per day. So these are 6 cool magical items the Skeletal Rider will drop. If the players attack the Skeletal Rider, he will not drop an item. Don't drop an item if the players attack. Okay, there we go. So we got the Skeletal Rider. And now we have the wolves. So let's do the wolves. We got another combat encounter. Let's zoom out here and get rid of the Kenku. And we're going to run the wolves here. So if we click on the wolves, we'll run combat encounter. There they are. Brings up the combat tracker. You can decide your players ready to go. Again, like I said before, the person that's on watch, he's going to be able to spot one of the wolves. 2 of them are visible. This one's visible. This one's visible. I've run a perception check between 10 and 15, easy to moderately hard. If they see one of the wolves, then they can get an action. Now, you might want to say he's going to go rush and wake up one player as his action instead of engaging the wolves. That's his turn. So you're going to roll initiative for everybody right away. One of the things you might want to add is you can decide to wake, as your action, you can decide to go over, wake up the player, grab his weapon stuff, and get ready to put it in his hand. So he can be in combat that turn and not wait next round. Otherwise, he's going to have to wait next round. So that could be an action. You can wake one player, get the weapon ready, wake him up. We got wolves here, get up, and grab the knife. Then that player can be in that first round of combat. Otherwise, the player's going to have to determine if they're going to join at the beginning of the second round or the beginning of the third round. When the wolves attack, a couple of things about wolves. The other wolves that are hidden, I wouldn't bring the other wolves in. I'd bring the first wolf out for the first round. At the beginning of second round, I would reveal the other wolves. And don't forget, the wolves have pack tactics. Bring them in close, be aggressive. Now, depending again on your party size, party level, party experience, you might only have 2 wolves. Or you might have 3 wolves. You might have more than 2 packs. We got 2 packs of 3. You might have 3 packs of 3, or 2 packs of 4, or 2 packs of 6. Weigh this out to your party if you want to make it deadly, if you want to make it easy. But what you always should do is use the pack tactics. Keep the wolves next to each other. As long as they're 5 feet from one another, they get advantage. The other thing about wolves is they're going to go for the weak one. They're going to go for the weak player, and they're going to ferociously attack the weak player. So you got the wolves there. And then last but not least, of the 10 encounters on the road, we have, back by popular demand, Yesper Noggins. I made Yesper Noggins in one module. I didn't know anybody would pay attention. I got quite a few comments about him. They really liked him. I've been asked, is he going to be in Vlaki? Are you going to include Yesper Noggins? We want more Yesper Noggins. Yesper Noggins has made the random encounters table. So who is Yesper Noggins? For those of you who don't know, I'll bring him up right here. And he's got a new sidekick. So you're going to love Yesper Noggins. Here is Yesper Noggins and his sidekick. I'll zoom in. We can talk about Yesper Noggins and his sidekick, Grumple the cat. Grumple the grumpy cat. Yesper Noggins is a Barovian drunk. He wanders the roads of Barovia between Kresk, Vallaki, sometimes maybe the Wizard of Wines, and the village of Barovia. And he is friendly, carefree. He's never afraid. He's actually too stupid to be afraid. He's, Strahd, whatever. He's just some old crotchety guy living up in his castle. He is a destitute. He just doesn't care. The beast, werewolves, everybody avoid him. He smells. He probably hasn't bathed in a while. Maybe every now and then he's got a little urine soak in his pants, so he's not smelling very good. The vampires don't even want to bite him. They're too afraid. It's like, if we suck on Yesper Noggins' blood, we might become stupid or drunk. We don't know. We don't want this guy around, right? So because of his kind of destitute, drunken, slobby lifestyle, it's kind of been this natural defense against all the shit in Barovia. I did give him an AC 20. He only has a couple hit points, like 2 hit points or something. And the joke was, somebody, I forgot who it was, so I apologize, but they sent me a message. They made Yesper Noggins with 30 AC and 1 hit point, which I put in the little screenshot. I thought it was so funny. He's like, he's so drunk you can't hit him. He kind of like, he's stumbling around and falling around. He's like, you can't land a blow on him. If you do, he dies instantly because he's just so weak. He has like 1 hit point, AC 30. I gave him an AC 20. He has low hit points. He'll never attack. He's just always looking for a drink. And he's looking for someone to tell a story to. He likes to talk. He just wants to tell a story. Now, I got a new sidekick. That's Grumple the cat right there. There he is. Take a look at Grumple. I'll give you a close-up shot of Grumple because he's so grumpy, the cat. Now, Grumple the cat, Grumple, is a real cat. It's my son. The name of my son's cat is Grumple. There he is. That is not my son's cat. My son's cat's black, but my son's cat still has that same face. Grumple the cat. Grumple the cat is just really, really grumpy, and he goes wherever Yesper goes. The cat just looks grumpy, doesn't like anything, never attacks. He gets annoyed when anybody touches him. He just looks annoyed. I mean, you can roleplay Grumple the cat however you want. Yesper Noggins just looks at it as like, I don't know, it's just a cat follows me around, you know. Now, Yesper Noggins has a rumor table, and I imagine this rumor table is going to get bigger and bigger. It's 20 of them right now. I'll just show you one thing that Yesper Noggins will say. I'll just roll one. There's a bunch of things in here he says. There's a strange old circle behind the windmill. Yeah, I saw it once when I was a boy. It's how spooky it is. I wouldn't go there anymore. That spooky stone circle behind the windmill. I don't know. I'm trying to act like Yesper Noggins. I guess I'm always talking. You know that Ernst fellow. He's always buying Yesper a good old drink. He's a good guy buying Yesper a drink, you know, because he likes to hear my stories. Ernst does. So when I go to the Blackwater Tavern, Ernst is there, and if he's there, he buys me a drink, and I tell him what I saw that day. He likes to hear my stories. Now, the reason, by the way, Ernst likes to hear Yesper Noggins stories is because Ernst is a spy. And what better resource than Yesper Noggins, who's walking all over the place? Yesper sees everything. Now, part of the problem with Yesper Noggins is, you know, you have to kind of pull apart what he's saying because some of the stuff he's saying is just gibberish. So anyway, there's 20 things in here. He can give you some tips and crazy things about different things. Fun role-playing. You got Grumple the cat and Yesper Noggins. They're in 4, by the way, of the five maps. So that is it for the campsite. Again, a huge shout out to Aonbarr Cartography for allowing us to use the campsite here. I really like his maps. He's done some Ravenloft maps, so go check out Aonbarr's Patreon page. There's also a link in the description of this video below. So again, big shout out to him. Thank you so much for allowing us to include it. Next up, we have the Crossroads. Now, the Crossroads map here is by C and Peku. Now, C and Peku, you probably already know who they are. They have thousands of Patreon followers. They make tons of maps. They were really gracious, allowed me to include one on here. So they're a big Patreon map maker on there, creating lots of maps for D&D and Pathfinder. Now, one of the things I really like about their maps is this watercolor look and feel. It has this really cool look and feel. I was a fan of the old Johnny Quest comics, and I get that feeling when I look at their maps. It's different. It doesn't feel like other maps. And so I like a lot of their maps. One of the things they do with their maps is they make them not just in different colors, but in different seasons. A lot of the times you'll see the same map in winter, in fall, in summer, in spring. Some map will have some assets on that as well. They do some amazing work. They were really nice to allow me to include this Crossroad maps on here. Huge shout out to them. Go check out their Patreon. They got so much stuff to look through, a lot of fun stuff. Big thanks to them. Now let's jump into this, and I'll tell you why I like this particular map. This map has a hedgerow that you can't see over, but then it has a low wall that you can see over, has 2 good open spaces, and it's a crossroad. Now, you don't always have to use it as a crossroad. You could use it as a regular road, and this road leads down to a farm or something. So it doesn't always have to be a crossroad. However, if we revisit the Barovia map, there are quite a few areas where this crossroad could exist. Now, obviously, we have the regular crossroads, which we already know about. We have a module for that, and its actual special location, Curse of Strahd, but there are quite a few others. There's the crossroads right in front of the western gates of Barovia. There's the crossroads that lead down to the old windmill. There's the crossroads leading out past the Luna River. There's the crossroads leading down to Argynvost. There's the crossroads at this path right here leading up to the Wizard's Tower. There's crossroad here. I mean, there's lots. There's a crossroads right outside of Kresk. There are a lot of areas where there's crossroads right outside the Wizards and Wine. So you can use this at 5 or 6 locations really, really, really easily. Now, the crossroads has some similar, all of them have some similar encounters. I showed you in the campsite, which was the barrel. This one has the bucket. The bucket's the same thing. You're going to use the Curse of Strahd trinket table. And the bucket, you can place the bucket anywhere you want to. I have the bucket. I'll just show you. I'll run the quick encounter and show you. The bucket is right there. And you can just roll on there. They can go investigate the bucket. We also have the corpse, like I showed you before. I'm not going to go through that again. And we have the Skeletal Rider and Yesper Noggins. So Yesper Noggins will be on this road, could be on this road. The Skeletal Rider could be on this road. The corpse and the bucket. Now, what are some of the unique encounters in the map? The first unique one we have is the Villagers of Barovia. And so we're going to run this encounter here. One of the things I want to mention about the encounters is we can go ahead and layer these encounters if we want. And I'll show you how we do that. In this particular encounter is the players come around, they're carrying some lanterns, that's why they're glowing, there's some Barovians, villagers. It could be from any village. They're walking up the road, they've got their pitchforks, they've got their lanterns, there's one of the females with them, and they come up to the party.
Who are you? What are you doing here? You're not the Barovians.
If you ask them what they're doing, it's like,
something has been killing our sheep. We believe it's been some wolves. Wolves have been killing our sheep. We're out here waiting to find those bastardly wolves and kill them.
so they're out there trying to find who's killing their sheep in the fields. They believe it's some wolves. Now we can layer this with these other encounters. We have werewolf, wolves, and direwolves. You can use any 3 of these. So we'll just use the regular wolves, and what's nice about the quick encounters and these encounters is you can layer them on top of it. You could actually have the bucket on the scene and the Barovian Villagers. Maybe Yesper Noggins starts walking up there.
Ah, Yesper, get away, you smell like urine. Ah, go take a shower, Yesper. Jump in the Luna River, clean yourself off.
You know, who knows, Yesper Noggins can come by and the cat, Grumple the cat walks by and lifts his leg and pisses on one of the villagers. Just making this shit up as I go. But you can layer these on here. So let's layer the wolves on here. So maybe they're looking for the wolves and they're asking you to help them out. And so now you've got the wolves in here. You got wolves, 2 wolves up in the north, 2 wolves down south. You could layer it depending if the party is a little higher level. You can bring in the direwolves if you want to. You realize, hey, it's not wolves that you need to be afraid of. There's some big direwolves out here. Maybe the players go investigate the dead sheep with the villages of Barovia, and they do a medicine check or some kind of nature check, and they go, a wolf did not do this. I mean, you see the entrails just ripped apart, and you look at the bite marks, and the bite marks are huge, and you go, this is way bigger than a wolf. Perhaps maybe a direwolf or something. And then they realize a direwolf. And just then, as they're investigating the sheep, a direwolf jumps out of the bushes and begins to attack. And something like that. So you can add direwolves to it. Or what we have here, I'll show you. Or the villagers are here, and guess what? We have a werewolf. Now, the way I would run the werewolf is I'd have the werewolf hiding in the tree over here, right? Get the werewolf in the tree so they're out of line of sight. And he reaches out, and they're talking. You know, the woman's standing back here. They're all yakking with the players. Yes, some wolves have been eating our sheep, we think. We're out here. And the Barovian guys have got these pitchforks I'll show you here. They've got pitchforks, you know, to attack, and their hooded lantern. Ah, the damn wolves, we're going to get them. And all of a sudden, the players hear and she's disappeared. The werewolf has reached out, pulled her into the bushes. I would make it a high perception check, like DC 20. Have the players roll DC 20, see if he hits. All of a sudden, one of the men turned around. Where did Margaret go? Oh my God, there's something out here. And all of a sudden, you know, maybe he's torn her to shreds. Maybe he's about to kill her. Maybe he's going to kidnap her, take her to the wolf den. I mean, you can run this however you want to. But now, you know, this is Gothic horror. You want to scare the players. Just have them roll a DC 20 and nobody gets it. It's like you hear this noise and you look and you turn around, and behind the villagers, the woman's gone. She just disappeared. Part of good horror, part of good Gothic horror is not seeing what the creature is, not seeing what the monster is. It's suspense, it's fright, it's mystery. Don't show the werewolf at this point. Don't show the direwolf. The direwolf jumps out of the bushes when you're, you know, the suspense is you're investigating this sheep and you realize, you know, that wasn't a wolf, something bigger than a wolf. And just then, direwolf jumps out. Surprise and shock. So again, you can layer wolves, werewolves, or direwolves on top of that. We have the Skeletal Rider again in here, and we have the Vistani in here. Now these are the bad Vistani. And the way I would run this is I would have some of these Vistani invisible on here. And I would probably put them, you know, you can move them around, put them behind the bushes. You know, one's in the tree. You know, one's behind this bush. And this Vistani, you know, you can run this however you want to. What you're going to run here is these are the bad Vistani. Remember, I divided the Vistani between the good ones in Tesser Pool and the bad ones who are in league with Strahd, which are the ones in Svalich. You could run this like one of those kind of cons, like, oh, the Vistani is laying on the road. He seems to be hurt. Oh, I was attacked by wolves. Players go in to help him, and they get jumped. These Vistani jump out, and they jump the players. These Vistanis are not here to kill anybody. They're here to steal all the players' shit. So what you want to do is have, again, this is going to be, the players are going to come up. They're going to try to help this Vistani dude here. The other Vistani are going to jump out of the woods. Drop your weapons. You know, they've got their crossbows. Drop your weapons right now. You know, leave it up to something like that. Now, the players want to fight them, let them fight. If the players want to run. If they want to drop their, you know, role play this out. But you want to have that shock moment. This Vistani on the ground is not hurt. Again, depending on your party size, party level, you can add more or less Vistanis. The Vistani here, I believe I'm using the bandits, yep, and they have crossbow, short sword, they have traveling clothes, a set of dice, and an amulet on them. They're all wearing this amulet on them. It's a Vistani amulet that ties them to the Vistani at the Svalich camp. And so that's it. Those are the 10 for the Crossroads. Again, a huge shout out and thank you for seeing Peku for allowing us to use one of their gorgeous maps in here. Go check out their Patreon page. A lot of beautiful maps. If you like that watercolor look, everything. They've got a huge fan base and supporters. So it was a privilege they allowed me to include one of the maps on here. They obviously don't need to, but because they're so, compared to me, I mean, I got a couple followers and they've got like thousands, tens of thousands. All right, let's go to the next one here. The old Svalich Road. Savage Road. It's actually a Savage Road. I never seem to get that right. I really love the color palette on this map. This is by the Dungeon Madams, and one of the things, they're doing some Ravenloft, Curse of Strahd, Ghosts of Salt Marsh maps. Really love the color palette. and the attention to detail. Look at the mud from the ruts of the wagons going through the old road. One thing that's really nice about their maps is they're making some fun and unique maps that really work synergistically with DM Andy's maps for Curse of Strahd. So if you like the look and feel of DM Andy's maps, you'll probably like the look and feel of Dungeon Madam's maps. There's a similarity in the color palette there I really like, and so it constantly has that kind of foreboding, dark theme to it. Really beautiful maps. A huge shout out, I'm a Patreon member of theirs, really like them. They're also on our Discord channel, so make sure if you're on our Discord channel to say thank you for allowing them to include one of their maps. It's a WebP version of the maps. Again, this map comes in grid, some other effects like all their other maps. Go over there, join their Patreon, check them out. They are really great, putting some great stuff together. Really appreciate them allowing me to use their map. So let's go through this. This has some cool different encounters in it, like each one. Of course, we have the corpse, like we do in each one. We have a grave, which we did in the first one, and we have the Skeletal Rider and Yesper Noggins. So we're not going to do those four, but there's some unique ones here. The first unique one I want to show you, which I really like, is a monster that I slightly changed, and that's the Ghost Spider. So let me show you how the Ghost Spider works. The Ghost Spider is really just a phase spider that I've made some slight changes to. Now you can see one of the things on the Ghost Spiders that I did was I did some lighting effects. You can barely see it, but I wanted their body to like kind of, you know, look like a Ghost Spider a little bit. So there's a little bit of lighting effect on the body. So what I did, the stats are a phase spider, except for I changed the feature to Ghost Jaunt instead of Ethereal Jaunt. And the way the Ghost Jaunt works is this, and it's very important to understand the difference between the bonus action and the action. The Ghost Spider can use a bonus action to go invisible. And while it's invisible, it can move. To become visible, it must take an action. And it can only remain invisible for one round. So it can remain invisible for one round, it can move, but it has to wait till the next round, and the only action it can take is to become invisible. Now, the Ghost Spiders only have one action, right? So they can become visible. They can attack, they cannot attack while invisible. Now, they have a cool thing here, and I'm going to just run a little fun scenario here for you to show you. So we have this woman, same poor woman on the road that was attacked by the werewolf in the earlier episode. She's on the road, and the phase spider bites her. If the Ghost Spider. If the Ghost Spider successfully bites its victim, it can use its bonus action to go invisible. And when it goes invisible, the victim becomes invisible as well. Now, the phase spider can move while it's invisible with its prey, but remember, the next turn, it's going to have to become visible again. And when it does, the player becomes invisible. This means the player may miss their turn, right, until it's the phase spider's turn, or Ghost Spider's turn. But what's cool is nothing will happen to the player. They'll just move somewhere else on the map. What the Ghost Spider's trying to do is take it back to its lair, right? But it can only do this, it can only become a ghost for one turn. And then it has to take an action to become visible again. When it becomes visible again, it takes its action to become visible. You become visible. The character becomes visible. That's its turn. It can't do anything else, and it can't move. You know, it can't. You know, if you try to move or move away, I mean, it might spawn an opportunity attack. But that's its turn. So it'll become a ghost with you. Try to take you to its lair. That's the end of its turn, right? The next turn, it's got to become. It takes an action, becomes visible. This gives the player an opportunity to attack it again. I call this along for the ride. So this is a fun thing. Your player will not have any idea where it's gone, and then it just reappears next to the Ghost Spider again. Really cool effect. The Ghost Spider can only do one action, bite or become visible. I got the rules written in there, but I really like the Ghost spider there. All right, so let's go to the next thing we've got in here. We have the giant bat, another cool encounter, which I really like. So let me show you how this works. The giant bat, okay, this is not just any normal giant bat encounter. You got the 2 swarms of bats. They're really to cause players the headache. And you can, if you have more players or higher level players, you can grab more swarms of bats. But what the giant bat has is a special feature. The giant bat can grapple a player and lift it 30 feet on a successful grapple. It can only fly 30 feet, but it can lift the player 30 feet. And the giant bat is going to try to carry that player. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to grab this poor Barovian female. The giant swoops down, and as an action, it can grapple the player. If it grapples the player, the giant bat will fly 30 feet up into the air. That means the player is now 30 feet up in the air. And it will, if the player fails the grapple, it will fly 30 feet. And what it's going to try to do is drop its prey and attack its prey, right? So its next turn, it's going to drop you. It's going to try to drop you. Now, on your turn, you can obviously do a dexterity save DC 15. That's if you fall. You can always try to break the grapple with your athletics or your acrobatics check. But if you fall, you're going to fall 30 feet. If you fall 30 feet, you're going to take that 3d6 worth of damage. You can roll a dexterity save DC 15. If you do DC 15, you only take half damage. But if you fail that, you take the full damage and you fall prone. The bat will come down and try to attack you, but it's going to try to pick one party member out, remove them from the rest of the party, drop them, and attack them. So the giant bat can fly 60 feet, but only 30 feet and only at a 30-foot altitude if it's grappled somebody. It's going to lift somebody 30 feet, fly them over for 30 feet, drop them, and then attack, unless the player can. Now, if the player falls again, DC 15 on the dexterity check. If they fail that, they fall. They take the 3d6 worth of damage and fall prone. If they make the check, they don't fall prone and only take half the amount of damage. Meanwhile, the swarms should be harassing the other players. So that's the giant bat attack. Okay, what else do we have here? We have the old backpack that is similar to, that's the token again. So if you want to do the Curse of Strahd token table, that would be the old backpack they find on the road. Just show you, it just sits on the road and you roll from the token table. There it is, they find an old backpack on the road. Next up we have the regular spiders. This is a little bit different, I'll show you how this works. You have all these little spiders. Let me get this token on the road, tile on the road. They're not going to see the big spider. They're going to have all these small little spiders. And these small little spiders, they're just a nuisance. They don't do much damage at all, right? 1 piercing and maybe 1d4 worth of poison. You can just smash them. They're 1 hit point each. But they're all coming out of the woods out of this way. As the players back up, the big spider, you're going to reveal, you're going to show them all this when it's the big spider's turn in the initiative order. You're going to reveal it and it's going to attack. Now the big spider is going to use its web feature. The web feature hits 30-60 feet, 1 creature, it's restrained by the webbing, right? DC 12 check. If he webs a creature, and let's just say, we're going to use this poor Barovian female again. Let's say he webs her. If he webs her, all of these spiders are going to swarm on her. Anyone that's close enough will swarm, and they will all make an attack at advantage. Every spider, if you're webbed, every baby spider here, these are little babies, they're coming home. Every baby spider gets an advantage on their attack if you're webbed. Okay? So they're waiting for Mama, this big Mama spider over here, Big Mama. You can call her Big Mama Spider. She is going to web an adventurer to feed the babies. That's what she's doing. She's like, all right, time to feed. And the little babies know what to do. It's like inherent in them. They're like, ah! That's what's going to happen. So that's the big mama spider attack. That's a nasty one. Look at that spider. Tell me that is not nasty. Would you want to see this thing? Look at that. Ugh. I don't like, I don't mind spiders. I don't want to see something like that. Okay. What do we got? Next up, we have the trap. This is cool. This is another cool thing here. Let me just do this. There it is. So the way this works is the trap's invisible. You're going to place the trap here on the road, so the player's over here, and they're traveling. If a player steps into the square, they will trigger the trap. And the way the trap works is this. As soon as the trap is triggered, the game will pause. And the tile will reveal itself. It's a web. It's a net. You're going to hear it. And the player's going to have to make a perception DC 15. If they do, they see the trap. They go, oh, okay, I'm not going to step on it. They don't trigger it. They just see the trap, and you just mark it. Unpause the game. If they trigger the trap, they fail the perception check, they trigger it, they're going to have to roll a dexterity save, DC 15. If they fail it, they're going to take 1d4 damage, and they're going to be hoisted in the air into this. It's like a big net. It's hidden under the mud and the leaves, and it just wraps them up, pulls them up into the air. They're going to be 20 feet in the air. They're going to take 1d4 damage hanging up there. The player's 20 foot in the area at this point. You got to figure out how to get them out, cut them out. If they cut him out, he's going to fall. He's going to take 2d6 worth of damage. He's 20 feet up there. That's a big fall, right? He's got to be careful. If he succeeds, he's going to take 1d4 damage. He's going to be prone, but the trap didn't catch him. You know, maybe she sees the trap. She doesn't see the trap. It triggers. They make the DC the dexterity save. They fall prone, they like hurt their ankle for 1d4 damage, the trap's sprung. Regardless, as soon as the trap is triggered, you're going to roll in secret 2d4. In 4 turns, as soon as the trap is triggered, you're going to say, hey, I need all the players to roll initiative. Because this guy, you know, the trap's triggered, you got your buddy, the cleric, he's stuck up in the net. Everybody roll initiative because each one of you are going to turn to decide what you want to do, right? So again, you're rolling initiative to allow players to decide what their actions are. You're secretly going to roll the 2d4, and you roll 4. In 4 turns, in 4 player turns, 4 wolves arrive. So with, you know, the first player does something, second player does something, third player does something, fourth player. Now 4 wolves arrive. Now you've got a player stuck up in the tree, and 4 wolves have showed up. One of the things that we want to do in random encounters is just not make it a simple, stupid random encounter with like, okay, a ghost comes and now you got to kill a ghost. Okay, this happens. You want to weave it into the story, and you want to layer them on top of each other. The wolf gets, the net gets sprung. They're up in the tree. They're trying to figure out how to get them down. All of a sudden they hear a growl. There's a bunch of wolves behind them. You want to layer things on top of each other. You want to create tension. You want to use timing elements to up these encounters to make them exciting. You know, these are moments, you know, that the players will remember for a long time. So that's the net trap. And last but not least, you have the wolf pack, which if you wanted to run the wolf pack with a net trap, you could. The wolf pack is what I would call a Kobayashi Maru scenario. You're going to have wolves on both sides of the map. If the players are going west, you're going to reveal the wolves that are in front of them. Now, players are going to respond. They're going to roll initiative. And you're going to roll initiative for all of the ones, even the ones that are invisible. I'm going to get rid of the trap here for a second. The players are going to make a decision. Either they can't go through the woods. They either got to go down the road or they got to retreat. Figure out something else. If they retreat, these wolves reveal themselves over here. These wolves over here reveal themselves. Now they're cornered in. If the players move ahead and attack, these wolves still reveal themselves and move in on the players. There's nowhere to get out. You're not going to be able to escape. You go forward, the wolves attack. You try to retreat, the wolves from behind you attack. It's just going to happen. What you need to decide in one of these types of encounters. This is a tactical encounter. The players have to think very tactically in this, and you do too as a DM. Now, if you're running four players, they're all level 3, I would knock this down to, 2 wolves, right, on each side. You want to make sure you use your pack tactics. If you have more players, then you can make these wolf packs on either side 6 or 8, however you want to do it. Pack tactics means that the wolves are next to each other, they get advantage on their attacks. You also want to play this as a wolf. Now, if you ever watched any of those National Geographics or you're familiar with wolves or animals, a lot of these hunting animals, they watch. They sit and watch. They look for the weak one, the baby, the old one, the one that's kind of fallen out of the herd, and they're going to take that one out. All the wolves are going to focus on one player, the one that they think is the weakest. Now remember, wolves can smell blood. They can smell fear. I think they even have something in their features here. Let me check. They have keen hear and smell. They get advantage on these rolls. That's the mechanic. For me, it's more than that. These wolves, they can smell fear, right? These are Barovian wolves. You're going to pick one player and these wolves are just going to go brutal on one player. And they're going to get them, and I would play it where they're trying to grab the player and they're just trying to grab onto his arm and, pull him. You might say, instead of trying to do damage, instead of trying to do damage, he's going to grab your arm, he's going to try to pull you down, pull you prone. You can take some changes to the rules to bring some verisimilitude to the encounter. The wolf comes up and bites your arm. Maybe instead of doing the normal wolf damage on the bite, you say, I'm gonna try to roll a grapple check, because he's going to try to pull you down to the ground. And instead of doing 2d4 plus 2, because it's not trying to bite you to hurt you or eat you, it only does 1d4 worth of damage, but it's really trying to pull you down to the ground. Those are the things that you need to think about as a DM. You're trying to change the combat. You're trying to make it something interesting and engaging for the players that fits within kind of the scenario that you're playing. So those are the ghost spiders, which is really cool. The giant bat that can haul you off away. We've got the skeletal riders, the spiders that come to Mama Spider, try to web one of you. The wolf pack, of course, Yesper Noggins. I gotta just put him on the screen because he's just so awesome. Who doesn't love Yesper and Grumple the cat? They're always around. Maybe Yesper Noggins shows up when you got a trap. He's like, looks like you got yourself there in the pickle, don't you? You guys got any wine? Any ale? Look at Grumple the cat. So huge shout out and thank you to the Dungeon Madams for providing this map for this guide and for the video, and go check them out. Really love the color palettes on their map. They fit in really well with DM Andy, so big thank you. Next up, we have the Ruins. Now, the Ruins map, let's talk about the Ruins here. The Ruins are made by DN David. Now, one of the things that I love about DN David's maps is if you are looking for something really unique, you want a unique location, something that you haven't seen before, you want to check out DN David. He's also just pumping maps out. Like, it seems like my Patreon's pinging me every other day with DN David popping out another map. So if you want, like, a city up in the trees, or some weird temple, or something that's just truly unique to bring a unique element, some interesting colors, he's not afraid to experiment. And every time I look at one of his maps, I see a story in his maps, which I really like. So he was very gracious to allow us to include one of his maps. And I'm using, out of all his maps that are really interesting and stuff, I wanted something for a random encounter that I could use over and over again through Barovia. So I used kind of the ruins on the Weathertop. It's just kind of some old ruins. We'll talk a little bit about those here. So check out DN David's Patreon page. Just a huge collection of some great maps on there. Now, this particular map comes in grid, non-grid, and light day. I decided to use the darker version of this to fit it in with Curse of Strahd. And the reason I like this map It's a nondescript ruins kind of on a slowly raised plateau or hill. And I imagine that these were watchtowers, or it could have been part of an old religious site or something, strewn about throughout Barovia. Just off the roads, a player can see a little hilltop. It looks like some structures are on it, something like that. Let's take a look at the player map where you could place these things. Pretty much anywhere. I mean, you know, coming up on either side of the Tesser Falls, coming in down into Vallaki, you could have a watchtower up here. Certainly there'd be a watchtower along the road to Argynvost, probably one on the way to Selenka Pass, or the down into Brez along the river. These are kind of just little small hilltops, not too high, some old stone strewn about. If you lived or traveled through Europe, you've probably seen hundreds of these old Roman sites that are just kind of decrepit, and you know there's some probably interesting story there, you just don't know what it is. This allows you as the DM to create your own, you know, interesting story of what it could be, or perhaps through these encounters. We got some crazy encounters for this map. Now what's interesting about this map, I've marked this on the southwest side, there's a 20-foot decline. It's not a cliff, it's a steep sloping decline. If the players fall down it, they don't take 1d6 damage, 2d6 damage, they'll take 2d4. If you guys ever watched the movie Princess Bride, you remember when Buttercup and Leslie, what's his name? Leslie? I forget. Wesley. Fall down, they roll down that really steep hill, and they're just boom, boom, boom. I imagine it's something like this. So you'll only do 2d4, not 2d6, if you fall and roll down this hill. And these are the ruins up top, strewn about. So what are some of the ruins things there? Of course, we have the corpse like we did before, but we also have the army of skeletons. Let's bring those skeletons up, the army of skeletons, and let's talk about how this works here. The army of skeletons is what I call a pressure wave attack. We're going to have wave after wave of skeletons attacking. They're pushing the players towards a cliff or towards a wall, in this case to the steep embankment. They're coming up towards the ruins, marching up. I imagine these skeletons are skeletons from war centuries ago, rising up, you know, maybe reliving a battle that was at this location. What you want to do here is the first wave of skeletons attack. The second wave is invisible behind. You want to bring the second wave in at the beginning of round 2. And the whole purpose of this is you want to shift the thought process of the players. The parties might see, it's only 5 skeletons. They feel pretty confident. When they see a second wave of skeletons coming, their confidence erodes. One of the things that's scary about a lot of zombie movies, not the fast zombies, the crazy zombies, but some of the old Dawn of the Dead, which I like the original Dawn of the Dead, the 78 one, takes place in the mall, is the zombies one-on-one aren't that scary, right? They're slow, they're just kind of stupid, right? They're not that scary. Just like the skeletons, 1 or 2 aren't that scary. But when you're looking at hordes of them, you're gonna like, you know, maybe your confidence, you want to lower the confidence. And that's the whole point of bringing a second wave of skeletons, is lowering the confidence. So this is a wave or pressing advance against the players. Now remember, there's that, maybe they dug up that the pouch with the finger bones in it. They'd have resistance to the attack of the skeletons. Again, you can add another wave if you want to that begins at round 3. If you want to, you can increase or decrease the number of skeletons. Again, depends on your party size and your party level. But they'll be pressing it up. And if the players retreat, they have to deal with this sloping hill. You know, going down the sloping hill is going to be difficult, very difficult terrain for them. And if they get down to the bottom of the hill, I don't think they can see up the hill. You can't see up to the top of the hill. On the top of the hill, you can see down, but you can't see the skeletons at the top of the hill. So it's a pressing advance. It'll make for an interesting combat encounter. some of these combat encounters, I was thinking a lot about tactics and how you want to introduce different strategies and tactical elements so to allow the players to learn different ways of approaching problems and include terrain features in creating some of that unique difficulty that could be to their advantage or disadvantage. And that's what we have with the pressing army of skeletons. Next up, I'm going to save Dark Storm for the very last. We have a grave like we did before. Next up is another trap. This one is the hidden trap, a hidden chamber. And let's go ahead and show you this here. So when you run this encounter, the tile will show up on the screen and it'll be grayed out. And when a player character falls over the tile will reveal itself and pause the game. What's happened is you're on the top of this hill and the ground is kind of broken free and there's a chamber 60 feet down below. As it's starting to break free, the players will roll a perception check, DC 15. They'll notice it. They'll back away before the whole thing collapses and falls in. They'll suffer 1d4 damage trying to avoid falling in. If they fail their perception check, we have what I call a scaling DC for various conditions. So this is not they fall and they get hurt. This is one of 4 conditions. Number 1, they're going to roll, this is a scaling DC save. DC save comes in less than 10, they're going to fall to the bottom, they're going to take 66 worth of damage. Any light that they have with them goes out. Boom, they fall to the bottom. If they roll between 10 and 15 on their DC save, they fall, but they're going to manage to break their fall as they go down. They're only going to take 46 worth of damage. Again, any light, if they have a lantern or a torch, it's going to go out when they hit the ground. It's going to be dark down there. If they roll 16 or greater, they're going to be able to grab to the edge, maybe some grass or some roots. Hang on, they're going to suffer 1d4 worth of damage, grabbing on. But anything in their hands, if they're holding their weapons or holding a lantern, they're going to drop, and those are going to fall down 60 feet into the pit below. Now, what's in this chamber? It's a small chamber underground. There's a skeleton down there, a short sword. There's 4d20 worth of gold, and there's 2d4 worth of poisonous snakes in the bottom. Think of Indiana Jones. You remember when he was down there, or snakes at the bottom? That's what's down there. There's 2d4 poisonous snakes at the bottom of this pit. You're looking at probably about a 10 foot by 10 foot chamber that's, the ground probably years of centuries of erosion and rainfall and whatever, just deteriorated in the slight pressure of the party member walking on it. It's just given way. Now, the players are not able to see. They must find a way to get light down below, maybe use some magic light or lower a torch or whatever. It's 60 feet down, and specifically 60 feet down, not for damage, but a 50-foot rope will not work to get the player out. Because remember, you got to tie that rope around a rock. It's probably, 5 feet, 4 feet tying around a rock. Then the rope's got to go across the ground, then down. So you've used up a good 10 feet. And then you've got maybe, 40 feet of the rope dangling down there. The player's down at 60 feet. They're not going to be able to grab it, right? So you're going to have to figure out, you better have 2 ropes or figure out another way to get them out. Now, once the trap is triggered, just like with the previous trap, you're going to roll a 2d4. And in that many turns, you're going to have a giant poisonous snake at the top come slithering out of these rocks over here and begin attacking the player. So you got a player at the bottom with these poison snakes, and now you got a slithering snake at the top. Now, you don't have to do that if you don't want to, and if you're going to do it, it'd be secret. It'd be 2 turns. I would make that secret, not let the players know about that. So that is the trap down at the bottom, the chamber. What's in the chamber? Just some gold. You can put some other items in there if you want to weave this into your lore. Into your story, maybe this is an ancient burial chamber, or this was the basement or a dungeon or something underneath this old ruins. This is left wide open for you to figure out, but they're going to fall into this chamber down there. The only way out is straight up under the hidden chamber. Speaking of snakes, we have a snake encounter as well. and it runs in a similar fashion. I'm going to run that right now. So this snake encounter has the poisonous snake and the large snake on it. Notice it's right next to where the ground is, where the roof collapses down into the hidden chamber. When you're running the snakes, what you want to do is keep the snakes hidden. When a player is within 5 feet of the snake, the giant snake reveals itself. It gets its first strike, and then add all of the characters and snakes, and then roll for initiative. So the large snake on one of the party members, the first one that gets within 5 feet, is going to reveal, it's going to strike, and strike them. The poisonous snake does quite a bit of damage, the large one. It does 1d4 plus 4 piercing, plus 3d6 worth of poison. The small baby snakes, which are also poisonous, by the way, their bite is not as fierce. It's 1 piercing, sort of like bats, but it does 2d4 worth of poison. You got some problems here. You're going to have to deal with some snakes. Maybe they found that corpse with the antitoxin on them. See how all of this fits together? Maybe that corpse, maybe it wasn't poison in the vial. Maybe it was poison from the snake venom. And he's got antitoxin because he was going to probably try to get down here. You remember he had a rope. Maybe he was trying to get down and find this hidden chamber to find the gold in there. Maybe that's... Hell, maybe if you find the corpse here, maybe those are the items that he has on him. And he was the one that was trying to find this hidden chamber, and you found it, and the snakes attacked, and he knew there were snakes here. So you got the snakes. This next one's really cool. I like this one. I hope you like this next one a lot too. The next one is the witch ritual. Get this going here. So the players, you got these witches here. You got to check these out because I got some cool lighting effects on them. Look at them. Ooh, tell me that witch does not look just creepy. Look at those witches. Barovian witches. So you got these witches, 3 witches. They're performing a ritual, and they're about to sacrifice this young village woman. This is the same young woman that got early attacked by the werewolves and the giant spider and then the bat. She's not having a good day. Look at her. You can see that on her face. She's like, really? This is the day I'm going to have here? Oh, it's Barovia, so go figure. So you've got the 3 witches. They're performing this ritual. The players are going to hear her cry out. She's tied in the center, screaming. When the players get close enough to be within range, when they hear her crying out, they're going to see these 3 witches. As soon as they're in range, you're going to roll 2d4. And that's going to tell you how many turns before one of these witches plunges that knife, that blade into this poor girl and let her blood drip down and soak into the ground on this ancient ruins where there's a demon tomb down below. As soon as she stabs the Barovian female, at the end of that round, whenever that happens, at the end of the round, at the beginning of the next round, a shadow demon appears. So they are trying to do this ritual, make a sacrifice to raise this shadow demon to, for whatever crazy reason these witches want to raise a shadow demon. That's what they're doing. And then they're all going to enter into combat. Now, it only takes one witch to finish performing the ritual. The other ones are doing their mumbling some ancient tongue. Who the fuck knows what they're saying? They're saying something pretty scary, because they're about to stab this girl. She's going to bleed into the ground, and from the ground rises the shadow demon. That's what's going on. If the players are able to save her or rescue her, you can make up a story. Maybe she's from the village of Vallaki. Maybe she's from Crest. Maybe she's from the village of Barovia. Depends on your story, your campaign. Maybe you already have her, some person in your campaign that's disappeared. Maybe they've been kidnapped. This could be kidnapped. Maybe some girls disappeared from a village, and you've heard about it. So you can weave this encounter. Remember, the encounter doesn't have to begin when the players run into it. The players could have heard about somebody being kidnapped or somebody that's gone missing. And then later this random encounter occurs. And it could be random. It could be, they heard about her missing. It's not an important story. They cares for, this girl, she's a blonde woman. She was a nice lady. She helped at the Blackwater Tavern baking pies, and she just disappeared. Players forget about it. They go, oh, yeah, she disappeared. There's no clues. Then, 3 days later, they're camping. They see these ruins. They go over to the ruins. There she is. She's tied up. That's the girl that's missing. And the witches are performing a ritual. So it's cool to tie in these little tiny threads and little things together. It really brings the campaign to life. So if they save her, they can bring her back. Her husband or whoever has 40-20 worth of gold to give you. So thank you for rescuing. That's all they have. Maybe she did. Maybe it's the Volumps, and she works for the Volumps, and she doesn't have any family, and they give you the money to rescue, as a thank you. Of course, you could stay for a hot meal, welcome you. Maybe they share some lore with you. But this is really cool. So you got a timing element. You have the witches. The witches here aren't super powerful on their own. They don't have the coven ability. They have claws, a dagger. They do some basic spell casting in here. I did not put any Barovian witch spells in there. They're not high level. They're 3-level casters. And I'll leave it up to you what kind of witch spells that you want to have in there. I would have a couple of basic things that would be more like charm or sickening ray, anything kind of disgusting and witchy. Cantrip level 1 spell in there. Nothing too difficult, but they're going to attack in unison, and then when the demon comes, then you've got bigger problems to deal with. So that's the witch ritual. I left it kind of open-ended for you to kind of fill it in how you want to, but it's pretty cool. All right, you have the Worg. We talked about the Worg before, and I'm going to give you a little bit more clarity on that. Now, you may know that DM Andy has just finished the beautiful Worg cave map up in the Snowy Mountains for me. I am finishing working on the Worg encounter. Give you a little bit of information about the Worg. The Worg were here in Barovia before man were here. They live by their own code, live and let live. They don't care about man. They don't care about Strahd. They made a pact with the Fae 1,000 years ago to leave man alone. And so the men don't go north of Lake Zarovich up in the mountains, and the Worg don't go south. And people haven't seen Worgs in centuries. They were once allies with the werewolves, if you remember. They're the ones that took care of the first werewolves. They showed them they live by the code, live and let live in the mountains, we'll hunt animals, we'll show you the ritual, how you can control this beast within you. The Worgs do speak not only Worg, they speak common. The Worgs do not attack, but will defend if they are attacked and flee. Remember, they've made a pact. They will not attack humans at all. Now, if the PC does speak with a Worg, they will share information, but they will remain neutral on all things. They don't want to have opinion. They don't take sides. They're the Switzerland of Barovia. They always revert to their code. Live and let live. Even Strahd, live and let live. If he doesn't screw with us, we don't screw with him. Worgs don't get involved. That's their thing. They won't even reveal their den location. They just say, hey, as it's been commonly known in the Barovian lore, the Worgs live north of Lake Zarovich in the mountains, and the men control what's south of Lake Zarovich. Even Strahd doesn't go north of there. He has no purpose. There's nothing there. That's where the Worg live and hunt. Now, if asked to what they're doing, they're hunting. They eat animals. They try to avoid humans. They know these humans don't go near these ruins. That's why they came here. Secretly, they're spying on the werewolves and keeping track of what's going on in their own self-interest in survival. Now, they do have some knowledge they'll share with you. They know the location of the wolf den. They know the werewolves have been attacking the shipments between Kresk and Vallaki. Worg are no longer allies with the werewolves. They are upset with the werewolves. Carol's taken over. They're upset that they've broken this cardinal rule, live and let live, that the Worgs taught them. They have a pact with the Fae. Now the werewolves, for centuries since Strahd's been about, been attacking humans. Some werewolves, they'll tell you that they know some werewolves, predominantly Skinnis, want to return to the old ways and ally with the Worg again and leave human beings alone. And they will mention the abbot and the abbey welcome all creatures, even Worg, who will visit occasionally. Remember, the Worg is trying to get to the abbot to warn them about a pressing werewolf attack. The only thing that they're pretty much ambivalent and neutral on everything, except for they have a slight disdain for the werewolves because they feel like they were, at one point, historically, the parents of the werewolves, and that werewolves betrayed them and joined with Strahd. So there's this little bit of, you need to get back to the old ways because, you're just going to bring the Worg because the Worg are concerned that humans can't tell the difference between a wolf, a direwolf, and a Worg or a werewolf. And if shipments and humans are being attacked, they're afraid the humans will blame the Worg are doing it, just like the werewolves. They'll lump them in together. So that's one of the things that the Worg are concerned about. They don't want blowback that's going to hit the werewolves, hit them as well. So it'll be interesting. I'd run initiative. Again, the Worg don't attack. They just kind of sit back and they're looking at the humans, the adventurers. Very cautious. Very cautious. But they will not attack. They will not engage in an attack. So it could turn into a role-playing moment, but if the players attack, the Worg will defend and retreat. Last up encounter we have before the big surprise on this particular map is we have the zombie encounter. Now, this is different than the pressing encounter. This is a surprise attack. So the other one was a pressing forces, right? You can see the army of skeletons pressing upon you, a wave after wave of skeletons. The zombie attack is different. The zombie attack is the uncertainty of surprise. And the way this works is, and I'll show you, I'm going to bring our poor lady here. God, I feel so bad for her. Poor Barovian female. Here she is. Okay, the way this works is when, these are all invisible right now. When a player gets within 5 feet, the zombie hand's going to come up out of the ground. And the player's going to roll a dexterity check DC 10. If they fail, the zombie's going to do 1d4 damage and the player falls prone. It grabs its leg and it's crawling out of the ground. If the players succeed, they see the zombies and they're safe. The zombies crawled out of the ground. Now, at the end of the round, the zombie closest to this zombie is going to rise. That would be this one. And I would reveal this. I would put all the zombies, roll initiative for all of them. They're invisible, so the players can't see how many are in there. They're invisible. So this is the next one that rises. At the end of each round, another one rises. Another thing that will trigger zombies is if another player starts running, gets over here, and runs right by this zombie, you just pause the game, say, roll dexterity. Don't tell them what the DC is, just roll dexterity. They fail. Zombies grabbed your leg, took 1d4 damage, you fall prone to the grass, got mud and dirt in it, you look down at your ankle and there's this claw grabbing at your ankle. Right? So what's going to happen is these zombies are popping up out of the ground. One's going to pop up. The one that's closest to the zombie that's awake is going to pop up because it's heard the other zombie calling out. So it's automatically awakened. The other trigger, so the players aren't going to know where these are. You could litter this whole map with lots of zombies or just a few. Again, depends on the number of players you have, the level of the party, but sprinkle these on there. Now, you could use Strahd zombies if you want to. I have regular zombies, so you can swap them out if you want to, or you can mix and match them. So this is just a different type of combat encounter. It involves a different tactical effort. One, you're not afraid. In both cases, you're not afraid. No one's afraid of the zombie. No one's afraid of the skeleton. You see the swarms of skeletons. But when you see wave after wave of skeletons marching towards you, it gets scary. No one's afraid of zombies until they surprise attack you. And nobody's afraid of zombies until how many surprise attacks are there going to be? How many are underneath the ground coming up? Is there 2, 3, 50? You don't know. It's that uncertainty. It's the unknown is what creates fear. The unknown waves of skeletons. The unknown surprise of the zombies coming out of the ground. All right, now for the big treat. The other big thing in here is I created an environmental effect here. Lightning. Okay, so the way this works is these are tiles that are invisible, that are triggered when a player, we're going to put our poor unfortunate player, what is her name? I don't know what her name is. The Barovian gal. She's just escaped a witch. She's running. I've got to get out of here. I want you to listen carefully. Let me get this zombie out of the way. Okay. Here she is. I've got to get out of here. The zombies, the witches, this is just so horrible. All right. Now tiles are invisible, remember? Here she is. She's running. Lightning came down and struck her. And unfortunately, she didn't have enough hit points. She took eight lightning damage. She's dead. So these tiles will trigger, pause the game, play the lightning song, and do 4d6 worth of lightning damage to the players. And pause the game. This is great because now you've got these the storm clouds are brewing, lightning striking. This is great to layer over the zombies, to layer over the witches, to layer over the hordes of skeletons attacking. You can just layer this lightning encounter on top of that. There's a storm, the clouds are brewing, it's looking dangerous, the zombies are rising on the ground, or the skeletons are attacking, or perhaps they've fallen into the pit, right? And now there's these snakes and they want to get off the hilltop, and now they're running, and depending on which way, the lazy Barovian girl runs. She's took 14 damage. She is not only dead, she is charcoal at this point. Now you can, with these tiles, you can just copy and paste them. If you want some more, you can Control-C and say, hey, I want to put some more on here. Let's put some more of these tiles. Just make sure they're invisible first, so the players can't see them, and they will reveal themselves when they get stood on. So you can resize them. You can put them all over the map if you want to. I thought it'd be really appropriate to have them here on the little hilltop, lightnings happening. And again, just like in the other encounters, you can layer these together. So that is it for the Ruins map. Those are all the encounters in there. We've got the corpse, as we saw before, the grave, the old chest. Those are the 3 items that you can find. You have the Worg, which is another talking. You have the trap falling into the ancient chamber. The army of skeletons and the zombies, the witch ritual, the snakes, and of course the dark storm. And again, a big, huge thank you to DN David for allowing us to include this map in WebP version. It's a 40 by 30 WebP version, but if you're looking for greater, the high resolution, go check out DN David. All right, let's go to our last map, is the Winter Road. And this map is provided to us by Venitas Maps. Now, the reason I like these maps a lot, and a lot of his stuff, is one of the things he does that's really cool is he does these tile maps. I don't know if you know, if you're familiar with the board game Carcassonne. It's a tile game where you have the tile with little roads and rivers, and you can attach them together. He makes some map packs like that where he'll do 6 winter road maps. Each one's different, and you can use them as one-offs, or you can attach them together if you want to tell more of a story. Some of them have ruins on them. He's got a ruin tiled maps. He's got road tiled maps. He's got a lot of interesting creative ways of putting things together. I really like it. And one thing I like, this is out of the winter map pack. So I think there's 6 or 8 of these winter tiles that fit together. You can use them one off or put 2 of them together. This is just one. And I really like it. One of the reasons I like his winter maps is so many winter maps are just white. And I like how that you have this kind of feeling of windswept snow and the blizzard in here. There we go. Put the blizzard wind on there. Here we go. So you have this feeling of the snow being kind of pushed around and everything on there. His maps are very crisp. I like it. They're easy to see. A lot of players really like these maps because they're They're clean looking and they work really well with both D&D and Pathfinder. But I think you can use these for some other role-playing games. I was looking at some of those maps and thinking, well, this would work good for, maybe Call of Cthulhu. There's some really cool maps on there. Go check out his maps. And again, huge thank you for allowing us to include this winter roadmap. This is in WebP version. This is 33 by 25. Again, if you want these in grid or if you want the entire, I would recommend to get the entire tile pack of all the winter maps. It's awesome. Check out, there's a link in the description below and in the PDF guide as well as the Foundry module. You can just click right there and it takes you right to his Patreon page. So let's talk about the winter road encounters we have here. First of all, just like we have in the other ones, we have the corpse, the grave, and we have the skeletal rider. Those things are the same as with the other maps. Remember, we've got 10 corpses to find. The graves have about 12 items in them, and the skeletal rider will drop a trinket. Oh, we also have the small crate, which is the 50 Gothic tokens. So if you don't want to have, and you can mix and match them, you can layer them. For instance, we can do this. We can do the corpse. I'll just add it on there. So you got the corpse here. And now let's talk about the hunting trap. Well, this is going to do the regular hunting trap. So there's the corpse there. At any time they can find the corpse, and it's all set up, ready to go. The monk's active tile triggers with the quick encounters. Let's do this trap here. So we have the winter trap. Oh, I didn't mean to close it. Hunting trap. There we go. So the hunting trap is right here, and it's invisible. As the players are traveling down the road, they're going to run a perception check of 15. If they're successful, they see that there's like a claw bear trap underneath the lightly dusting of snow. If they don't see it, they'll trigger it. It'll DC 15 save. If they fail, that thing's going to clamp on them. 44 worth of piercing damage, and their foot is caught in the trap. It's like, blood. They're like, ah! Now, if they're success, they're going to take 1d8 worth of piercing damage. The thing's going to, but they were fast enough to get their leg without it being caught. They're still going to take some damage, going to scrape their skin or whatever as those sharp blades close on them. Now, if the player's caught in the trap, they're not going to be able to get themselves out. They're not going to have not only the dexterity, the strength to lean over in the kind of pain they're in to open up the trap. They're going to need another player to open up the trap to release their legs. It's a DC 15. Every time that player fails to open up the trap to get their leg out, trap closes and does 1d6 worth of piercing damage. So every time they fail, they're just letting those teeth crunch on that leg some more. Once the trap is triggered, you're going to do like you did before. We're going to do 2d4 turns, and in 2d4, 1d4 plus 2 wolves will arrive, and you can place them off your screen. So again, you got a timing element that's going to happen. You're not going to let the players know when the wolves arrive, but in a couple turns they're going to arrive. 6 wolves. You got a problem. You got a player in a trap. You smell of blood. Things are going sideways quickly. When the players hit the trap, it will trigger. The trap will reveal itself in the game. Well, the game will pause. So there's a trigger on there, and trap will reveal. Game will pause, and they're going to have to deal with that. Next up, we have ice Mephits. And I like Mephits. They're not used a lot. There's 2 things about these Mephits that I do like. So the players are going to see, let me get rid of this trap here. The players are going to see these Mephits on, 2 of them appear. And these ice Mephits have the ability to fire off this frost breath. 50-foot cone of air, every creature in the area has to do DC 10, where they take 2d4 worth of cold damage, or half as much on a successful fail. So they're going to appear, and then what you're going to do is you're going to have these other Mephits that are going to reveal themselves at the beginning, or at the end of the, or at the beginning of the second round, or as they come online. Now, the one thing about the ice Mephits is if they have Death Burst, and when they're killed, a 10-foot radius around them, I think it's normally 5, but I made it 10, bursts, all these shards of ice fly out, and they do 1d8. The player has to make a dexterity save DC 10, otherwise you're going to take 1d8 worth of damage or half damage on a failed dex save. So killing these things are dangerous within a 10-foot radius. And again, you can put more of them on here if you want to, again, depending on your party size and your party level. So they're interesting, and you can mix and match them. Put those on there and have them find the grave at the same time. Maybe they're digging the grave and the ice Mephits come. Now they got to deal with the ice Mephits as they're digging through this grave. Next up, we have, again, the small crate is similar to the CoS Trinkets. Then we have I call them Wight Knights. Thought it's kind of a little play on words. The Wight Knights are, I imagine these were knights that died a long time ago during like the Battle of Svalich. And they will come and attack anybody that tries to go up towards Svalich Pass. Now again, you can run 1, 2, 3, 4, however you want to. You can run them in 2 different waves. Have one invisible, have one appear at the beginning of the next round. Change up that visibility, change up when they come in to attack. It doesn't always have to be everybody rolls initiative and everything starts at the same time. Timing can really add variety and is a spice of life, right? So these attack, they have life drain, they do a multiple attack, they're sensitive to sunlight, just like a lot of things undead are in Barovia. Then we have the Winter Bear. They have a polar bear in Dungeons and Dragons. I figured, when do you get to run a bear? That was the time. The bear, what I would do with the bear is one of 2 things. Either it's stalking the players, and I would have it stalking the players, and the bear is going to get the first attack is the way I would do it. I would run a real high perception check. Real high. This animal, if you look at those polar bear videos, these animals surviving in the winter, it's going to be hard for them to find something to kill. So they got to stalk really well. They're white. They're hiding in the snow. You're not going to be able to see them. They know how to move through the snow quietly. When they attack, I think they have 40 feet movement. When they're within 40 feet, they're going to bum rush the party, and they're going to go for the weakest one that they perceive as the weakest or the one that's kind of lagging behind. They're going to bum rush the party. They're going to get the first attack in. I would give them, even though I think they have multiple attack, I just give them 1 claw attack to start it off, and then say, you hear this noise behind you, you turn around, and as soon as you turn, right on top of you, this bear hits you. I'd have that person even roll a dex save. Roll a DC 50 dex save. You're knocked prone. You feel this huge paw come smacking down upon you. It just misses you. It scours into the snow. Everybody roll initiative. You're prone. You got a friggin' giant winter bear on top of you. So you could roll the combat like that. Just shock and awe is what you want to do. This guy's got a bear. They turn around. There's this huge bear. Look at this thing. This thing's not looking happy. It's looking like it's going to eat something, right? So you got the bear attack. The next one we have in here is the Winter Hunters. This is pretty cool. I think you're going to like the Winter Hunters one. Okay. So the party is, I would keep these invisible. You could run these invisible, and you could run a really low perception check, because the party's here is like, you see what appears to be 3 wolves laying in the snow, but they're not. It looks like hunters, and as the party stops, one of the hunters stands up out of the snow. And if you look at him really closely, I'll just zoom in so you can see, he's got like this wolf skin over him. He's using it to hide. He's laying in the snow, stalking something. Then you see the other two stand up.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
They care not for Strahd. They care not for the world of Barovia. They live up in the mountains near Salinka Pass in a small village, surviving generation to generation, hunting in the snow. They know no other life. They don't know anything about Strahd. Yes, he's some evil dark lord. They don't know shit about what's outside of their village, other than the fact that their village has recently, they're wolf hunters up in the mountains. They hunt wolves. Sometimes they balls up and they hunt direwolves or maybe even a winter wolf. But in their village, they've been being attacked by this giant yeti that's killed most of them. Their village, there's only a few of them left. You know, they're kind of like the barbarians of Barovia. You know, a handful of them living in a little cave somewhere. So this yeti has been just wreaking terror on them, and they're hunting the yeti. Now, if the players decide to help with killing the yeti, they obviously want the yeti skin and fur, and they probably want to, you know, do the attack. They're the winter hunters. That's their gig, right? You know, they got to man up. Yeah, I got to land the first blow, you know, kind of thing. So again, we have a terrain feature here, which is really cool. So when you get up here, when you start hunting it, you can do some tracking if you want to. Some tracking using some nature check, trying to track this thing. We've got a terrain element here, as I showed you before. You know, they can't see up over the cliff. The Yeti can see them. They can't see the Yeti. So what I would do is, like, you know, you get the one wolf hunter here. They're here. We're tracking it. We think it's been here within the last day or so. All of a sudden, this Yeti jumps down, grabs this guy, just tears him in half. Just is holding its upper torso. Just kind of the entrails are just dripping blood and stuff on the ground. You hear this clump in the lower half of the body falls into the snow. Blood is just pouring out, like just fumes of blood and guts. There's a look of shock in the dead winter hunter's face with his jaw open. Blood is just hanging out. The giant Yeti just looks at it, takes a bite right into the face, tears off the skin, the flesh. You just see bone, throws the body down and turns and to the other players. Dude, if I was there, I'd be shitting my pants. I'd be full brown trouser out of there. These wolf hunters have got to be in shock at this point. That's how you'd have, like, the beginning of the combat. It just jumps down off the cliff on top of them, just tears one of them up. You got a great encounter here. Well, now you're down to 2 winter hunters. This one's dead. Let's just make it. Let's make it so. He's dead. I think I got a dead icon in here. There he is. He's dead. And now you're in combat with the giant Yeti, which is really cool. If the party helps them, they're able to defeat the Yeti. Maybe they can go back, hang out with them a little bit. They'll tell them about the Slinker Pass, and they'll say there's a haunted bridge with a giant beast who attacks those who cross it. We don't go up that far. No one does, you know, something like that. So you got the cool wolf winter hunters here. And then, of course, there's nothing like having a winter wolf. You got to throw a winter wolf in here. So I got some winter wolves in here. We've got a couple of them. Let me get these out of here. You can mix and match. If you want to bring in the winter wolves with, you know, in when the players are caught in the trap, use the winter wolves instead. Now, I got 3 of them in here. These things are pretty nasty, even against high level if you miss on a dex, because they've got this nasty cold breath here, and they have pack tactics. They're 75 hit points a pop. They're doing 2d6 plus 4 damage. So they're throwing down some, you know, base, you know, worst case scenario, you're going to get, you know, 6 damage on a hit. So 2d6 plus 4 is not, you know, and if the target is a creature, it must succeed a 14 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. So they're nasty. Throw the cold breath on top of it for 48 cold damage. It's not good. They don't have multiple attacks, but they have pack tactics. So keep these guys together so you can get advantage on those hits. So there's your winter wolves. So that's it. Big, huge thank you again to Vanitas Maps for allowing us to use one of the winter road out of the map pack for us. This is a WebP version. Again, if you want the high resolution version or the entire map pack, go check them out. Let's just go through again and just look at each of the maps, the gorgeous maps that we have here. There's Grumple saying goodbye to everybody. We've got the nice forest map here, and the campsite map by Aonbarr. Cartography, make sure to visit out his Patreon page. Huge thank you to him. He's on our Discord channel, say a shout out to him. We have our Crossroads map. I really love the watercolor look and feel of their maps. If you guys are old school, like me, Johnny Quest, I think Johnny Quest was drawn in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. It's got that feeling to it. I really like that watercolor look. Just really nice. Seeing Peku maps, this comes in a variety of flavors. They got a lot of great stuff on their Patreon, so go check them out. A huge shout out to the dungeon madams. I really love the color palette. I think these work so well with DM Andy's maps. Really looking forward to including this in our random encounters map. I'm looking forward. They're making some stuff for Ghost of Salt March as well, so I'm pretty excited about that. They're on our Discord channel. Make sure you say thank you to them as well. Next up is the Ruins map by DN David. DN David, again, makes some really, he's cranking out lots of maps right now. My Patreon's going ping, ping, ping. And some really, really interesting maps. When you look at his maps, they're telling a story. Definitely check out DN David's maps. Great stuff there. Big shout out to DN David, and a big thank you to him as well. And last up, we just looked at it, was this gorgeous winter map, again, by Venitas Maps. I really hope you liked the random encounters. I can promise you a couple of things. Number one is I'm going to be adding a couple of more maps to this, some from DM Andy, obviously, and I'll be adding some more encounters, some more random tables. I just see this as, I had to get it out, but I see this as an ever-growing module. So if you're a Patreon member, you're going to get pinged and notified and updated when the map pack, the roll tables and everything gets updated. I really like putting this together. There was a lot of creative elements here. I really love to hear how you incorporate some of these things into your game. So a huge shout out, thank you. Again, I've also included the player battle map here, which I think is kind of nice. Tell me which ones you like. There's a bunch of them out there. I've seen a bunch on Reddit. We have some of them on our Discord channel. Join us on Discord and check them out. Again, huge thank you to all the Patreon map makers that contributed to this video, to the guide, and to our Patreon members, and to the community. And if you're interested, all of this is free. The PDFs and the Foundry Adventure Guide is all down below, and the links down below. Go pick them up and enjoy them. Thank you so much for your support and for watching this long video. This is Power King signing off. And until next time, may your rolls be critical. Boy, uncut. I don't know how many, that must have been a 2-hour video. Oh well. Gotta roll with it. I don't know. I still haven't learned how to edit yet. Go figure.